In Konoha the opening game plays as Jikuni Yuanichi Chapter 1-25. Chapter 1. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. More than a dozen shurikens flew from different directions, and without exception, all of them hit the training stakes in front. The boy narrowed his eyes and looked at the results of his training with determination. 13 shurikens hit at the same time. This level can already catch up with Itachi's young age, right? Looking at it, the ground was in a mess, with traces of fierce fighting everywhere. It can be seen that someone has conducted high-intensity training here. In the blink of an eye, I am already 5 years old. Hitaki Kusuo put down the ninja tools in his hand, panting and lying on the lawn looking at the sky. I didn't expect that it has been so long since I traveled to the Naruto world, but my system has not come yet. In this world of bloodline cheating, the pressure of survival is really extraordinary. That's right, Hitaki Kusuo's predecessor was a top student on Blue Star. He worked hard and was admitted to the highest institution of learning, but he didn't expect that an accidental car accident would send him to this world. Unfortunately, he encountered the Nine Tails Rebellion just after he traveled here, and both his parents died. If he didn't have a cousin named Hitaki Kakashi, yes, the famous Hitaki 55 Kai who was complained by countless Naruto fans, his life would have become a problem. I thought I would open the system like other time travelers, have the golden finger, punch Uchiha Madara, kick the six-path sage, and reach the pinnacle of life, but I didn't expect that I would wait for 5 years, and the system I had been thinking about had not come yet. It seems that I still thought too much. The system is really a lie in the novel. It doesn't exist at all. 5 years. This is the world of Naruto. Ordinary people can die if they are not careful. Even Konoha future has been destroyed several times. How can I live without the golden finger? Hitaki Kusuo cursed. It was this sense of oppression and tension that made him start training early. Anyway, the Hitaki family is also a famous family. There is no shortage of medicinal materials for strengthening the body. Hitaki Kusuo does not have to worry about shaking the foundation. Through inhuman advanced training, after accumulating strength, Hitaki Kusuo was able to launch 13 shurikens at the same time and hit them when he was just 5 years old. This scene. It is enough to shock many people. Even the Hokage may not be able to do this at this age. Of course, he can't compare with Uchiha Itachi, a genius who can calculate the trajectory of each shuriken after the collision. After all, he is from the Uchiha clan and has an auxiliary Sharingan. And he is just an ordinary person. His only advantage may be the opportunity to learn the swordsmanship left by Hitaki White Fang in the future. Training for a whole day is a big burden for the young Hitaki Kusuo. No rest, only desperate efforts. Therefore, now Hitaki Kusuo is almost out of breath and exhausted. The whole person is sweating, only the chest is still rising and falling, and the speed is amazing. Ding. Detect that the host has breathed 100,000 times a day. Turn on the strongest role-playing system. At this time, a mechanically synthesized voice suddenly sounded. When Hitaki Kusuo heard it, he was stunned for a moment, and then his face showed great joy. 5 years, do you know how I have been in these 5 years? My golden finger is finally here. Sure enough. The system will be late, but it will never be absent. System, tell me about the specific functions. Hitaki Kusuo muttered in his heart. Answer the host, this system is the strongest role-playing system. As the name suggests, the host needs to draw a lottery to open the template for role-playing. The higher the unlocking degree of the role-playing character, the stronger the strength. The system template character will automatically adjust the force value according to the current world. Hitaki Kusuo's eyes lit up, which means that no matter what character is drawn, even the weakest goblin, the system can adjust it to the strongest goblin in the Naruto world. However, he is confident that he will not be so unlucky to draw such a rubbish template. System, start drawing templates. Template selection. 1. 2. 3. After a dazzling lottery background, the template finally stopped on a swordsman with a high ponytail, a fiery red coat, a stripe on the forehead, and a gentle appearance. That is, a very temperamental man. It was the powerful existence, Sugokuni Yorichi, the founder of the Sun Breathing, who forced Muzan Kibutsuji to hide from the world and dare not show up until he died of old age. Congratulations to the host for successfully extracting the template, Sugokuni Yorichi. Template character synthesis in progress. Template fusion completed. Very soon. Hitaki Kusuo only felt that there seemed to be something extra on his body, and then a lot of swordsmanship and breathing knowledge appeared in his brain out of thin air. Sugokuni Yorichi. He murmured, for more novels 182,592, join. He muttered, and then the corner of his mouth curled up. This luck is too good. Sugikoku Yorichi, that is the combat power ceiling of the demon world, an existence of 1,500 cuts per second. A monster-like strong man. Even if the attack power may be different from that of the Naruto world, don't forget the blessing of the system. With the blessing of the system, Sugikoku Yorichi with full performance is definitely a bug-like existence. He is a genius who can create his own breathing method, open the pattern and the transparent world. If it weren't for the world's restrictions. Sugikoku Yorichi's achievements are more than that. He is known as the strongest man in hundreds of years, and he suppressed an entire era. Hitaki Kusuo believes that the pattern will definitely not be worse than the 8 gates when it is developed in the later stage. There is also the transparent world, which can judge the enemy's next move by observing the blood flow in the enemy's muscles. It is simply a combination of the Byakugan and the Haki of observation. Very good. Playing as a genius like Sukuni Yuichi, I should also inherit his abnormal talent, right? In this way, in this Naruto world, practicing swordsmanship and achieving the highest level is not a problem. After the system is turned on. The template fusion brought a lot of energy to Kusuo Hitaki, and the fatigue from the previous training was also swept away. Now, he is full of the urge to try it out with the wooden sword. Chapter 2. After simply cleaning up the debris in the courtyard, Kusuo Hitaki has given up the shuriken training that is not very helpful to him. Now, Kusuo Hitaki has a better choice. With the template of Yuichi Sukuni, he has made up his mind to specialize in swordsmanship. In the future, maybe he can use the sun breathing to cut off Uchiha Madara's head with one sword. Back to his own little home, which is the legacy left to him by his deceased parents, next to Kakashi's home. Kusuo Hitaki carefully took out a sword from a precious wooden platform. This sword is the ancestral sword of his generation in the Hitaki family. It looks plain, but extremely sharp. His father once used it to kill many enemies on the battlefield. It is enough for his own training now. It feels cold, heavy and simple. The touch of the killing weapon instantly makes Hitaki Kusuo addicted. He adapts quickly. As if born, he seems to have unparalleled control over the sword in his hand. Take a deep breath. Huff tilde kai. Huff tilde kai tilde tilde. Hitaki Kusuo enters the state, and his whole body falls into a strange state. Sugikoku Yoshichi's amazing talent makes him start to find that unique breathing feeling on his own. Feel the flowing wind. Slowly. Ding. Congratulations to the host for understanding the basis of breathing. Use breathing to adjust the cellular energy of the whole body, and reward full concentration breathing method. The voice of the system sounded at the right time. Kusuo Hitaki's eyes lit up. He didn't expect that he just tried to use the breathing method, and the system would immediately reward him for fully concentrating on breathing. Check the role-playing degree. Current role-playing degree, 1%. A virtual panel appeared in front of him, and an illusory man with a sword stood quietly in front of him. Walk to the courtyard. Kusuo Hitaki walked to an adult-sized wooden stake and stared at it seriously. Bend your legs, charge, jump, and slash. The posture is very skillful. A set of coherent movements was performed by Kusuo Hitaki's hands. The smooth and gorgeous feeling was simply not something that a 5-year-old child could do. All this, on the contrary, was more like the work of a swordsman who had been immersed in kendo for more than 10 years. One sword. The cold light passed through the air. Snap. The adult-sized wooden stake was actually divided into 4 pieces directly from the lower left, upper right and middle. The blade was smooth and neat, just like cutting tofu. Hut tilde. let out a long breath. Kusuo Hatake looked at the sword in his hand excitedly, and he was very satisfied with the results of the battle in front of him. Full concentrated breathing can greatly improve the body's skills, making the reaction, speed, and strength all get a qualitative leap. According to the current results, I am now at least close to the strength of a genin. Hehe, so what if I don't know ninjutsu? I can kill the enemy with one sword. Now he is full of confidence, and his still young face is full of smiles. By the way, since it is a role-playing, it must be similar in all aspects. Wait for me to go back and change clothes. After saying that, Kusuo Hatake ran back home in a flash, and when he appeared again, he seemed to have changed into a different person. Although his body is young, he is wearing a red dress, sun earrings, and a high ponytail. A handsome boy is born. Ding! Congratulations to the host for improving the role-playing degree. The current role-playing degree is 10. Reward breathing method. Sun breathing first style. The voice of the system appears again. Kusuo Hatake showed an expression of, as expected. It seems that as long as I can complete the system's requirements and always move closer to Yorichi Sugakuni, sooner or later I will be able to obtain 100% of the role-playing degree. Now I can't wait to test the power of the sun breathing. This time, Kusuo Hatake's eyes showed a rare nervous look. For no other reason, just to test what level of combat power he can achieve in the future. Therefore, next, it's important to go outside. After a day of training, the sky was already dark. Hatake Kusuo stared at the front with a determined look, his eyes were tender and firm. A wisp of white air came out of the corner of his mouth, he clenched his teeth, and swung the sword in his hand from his waist. Swish! A sharp sword light. A circular slash appeared instantly, and a roaring fire dragon galloped on the sword. Sun breathing, one form, round dance. The huge fire dragon slashed and slammed into the courtyard, and the whole courtyard was illuminated by the fire. Boom! The ground was shaking violently. What's going on? Why was there such a huge noise next to him? Kakashi was holding a short sword and was watching the sword technique formula left by his father at home. Suddenly, he felt the earth shaking, and at the same time found that there was a flash of fire in the outside world. Oh no! There must be a fire in Kusuo's place. Thinking that there was a fire in Kusuo Hatake's house, he hurriedly got up and rushed out the door, wanting to rescue his cousin. After a flash, he came to the yard of Kusuo Hatake, which was separated by a wall, but was shocked by the scene in front of him. Facing the sunken grass in front of him, and the various training stakes and puppets that were broken into two halves, it is not difficult to see that these were all cut at one time. And in the yard, there was only the young cousin Kusuo Hatake alone. He was holding a sword in his hand. The sword was still wrapped in flames, and the light of the fire was reflected on Kusuo Hatake's little face, as bright as a god. Somehow, the appearance of the red dress gave Kakashi Hatake a severe shock. He knew it now. This scene. It was all caused by his young cousin. He, who claims to be a genius, discovered and realized for the first time that he must re-examine his cousin, Kusuo Hatake. Chapter 3. Kakashi hid outside and was not discovered by Kusuo Hatake. At this moment, even Kusuo Hatake himself was a little shocked by the power of his attack just now. Hiss. The sun calling method is really awesome. Although it is only the first style, the power should be comparable to B-level ninjutsu, right? He has never seen it, and he has practiced ninjutsu, so he is quite vague about the level of ninjutsu. But then, a feeling of exhaustion attacked his whole body. So tired. Kusuo Hatake took a long breath. This sword consumed a lot of himself. The full concentration breathing method is good, but he has not mastered the full concentration normal, so he can't always maintain the state of using breathing to mobilize the potential of the whole body. Ding! The host uses the sun calling technique, and the template's role-playing degree increases by %. Current role-playing degree, 2.01%. Can daily training improve role-playing degree? Hatake Kusuo's eyes lit up when he heard the news. This is good news. Then, let me continue training. Stripes, transparent world, and all the sun calling techniques, I'm really greedy. He stuck the knife in his hand into the ground and propped himself up. Hitaki Kusuo has discovered that his sword drawing speed has improved by leaps and bounds. Before he got the template, it was very rare for him to maintain a sword drawing speed of 2 seconds. Now, the slashes he casually sends out are several times faster than before. Even the power is far greater. But this is normal. Sugikoku Yoshichi can swing 1,500 swords in 1 second and instantly kill the Demon King Muzan Kibutsuji. Even if he only has 1% of his talent now, 15 slashes per second is not a problem. Of course, this cannot be simply calculated with mathematical proportions, but based on the feeling, it is conservatively estimated that Hitaki Kusuo's current strength can also cut 3 or more slashes per second. Walking to the wooden doll that had been chopped into several pieces in front of him, Hitaki Kusuo carefully straightened it, and then connected it with some wooden sticks to fix it. There are still many dolls burning next to it, which is the attribute power of the first style of sun breathing. Sun breathing first style, round dance. Another move of sun breathing sword technique. But this time he did not use full concentration breathing. After all, this state is a great consumption of mental strength, so it is better not to use it in normal training. Bang! The arc-shaped slash swallowed the doll in front of him in an instant. It was not very solid to put together, and it was directly chopped into countless pieces in this instant. Not only that. With the template of Jikuni, Kusuo Hitaki's sword drawing speed is as fast as the sky. The sword blade cuts through the air and roars with a sound that breaks the sound barrier. So strong. Kakashi, who was hiding on the other side and peeking, frowned. He was just curious to observe what his cousin was doing, but he seemed to have seen something incredible. This sword drawing speed is simply incredible. It's not something a 5-year-old child can do at all. In order to see the speed of Kusuo Hitaki's sword drawing, Kakashi even took off his mask and used his Sharingan to barely see Kusuo Hitaki's movements. Because of this, it also made him even more shocked. A 5-year-old child can actually swing a sword that can only be seen with the Sharingan. If this gets out, it will probably shock countless big guys. Who is it? Kakashi. The exclamation was very small, but it did not escape the sharp-eyed and sharp-eared Kusuo Hitaki. He asked again with alertness, but still no one answered. So Kusuo Hitaki pretended that he had heard wrongly, and turned to face the wooden stake as if to continue training. The next moment. Sun breathing, first style, round dance. Swish. The sword was moved. A sudden slash. With the amazing sword pressure and the roar of a fire dragon. A huge wave of flames mixed with a burning breath came in an instant, and Kakashi jumped up in surprise. Boom. A loud noise. Earth and rocks flew, and there was a cloud of dust. A huge pit several meters deep suddenly appeared under the feet of the two. At the same time, a broken blade was stuck in the ground. This was the weapon that Kakashi swung out to resist in a hurry, but it was immediately split into two, without any blocking effect. It was only after Kusuo Hitaki saw Kakashi's face clearly that he turned the blade downwards, which caused the current situation. Looking at the huge pit under his feet, it is not difficult to imagine what would happen if it hit a human body. I am afraid that even the dregs would be left. Kakashi looked at Kusuo Hitaki in front of him solemnly, his heart was shocked beyond words. Perfect swordsmanship. Its potential even surpasses the ancestral swordsmanship of the Hitaki family. Although it is not clear where his cousin learned this move, it is certain that even his father, Hitaki White Fang, who is known as one of the 8 colors, cannot perform such a powerful swordsmanship at this stage. And Kusuo Hitaki is still young now, only 5 years old. If he grows up and has enough chakra, what will happen if he uses this move with all his strength? I am afraid. The pit under his feet is not a huge pit, but an abyss caused by a human slash. Thinking of this, Kakashi looked at his cousin Kusuo Hitaki with a warm look. This is the surprise of seeing a perfect uncut jade. He is also a descendant of the Hitaki family. If he can be trained well, he will definitely be as strong as his father, the White Fang of Konoha. P.S. To popularize some knowledge, in Japanese anime, swords and knives are not distinguished, so the katana can also be called a sword. The two are mixed together, so you don't have to be too picky about this when watching. Chapter 4. Hitaki Kusuo suddenly felt that the expression of his cousin in front of him when he looked at him was a little wrong. It felt like extraordinary enthusiasm. Ahem, sorry cousin, I didn't see it clearly just now, and thought it was a spy sent by another village, so. Yeah. Kakashi was very calm about this. It's always right to be vigilant. Your trick. Forget it. Everyone has their own secrets. I won't ask about this. But you have to remember not to expose your secrets too early. The village is sometimes not as peaceful as we think. Kakashi spoke confidently to Hitaki Kusuo as if he were an adult, as if he believed he could understand. Hitaki Kusuo nodded. Danzo, that old coin, knows everything. Looking at his 5-year-old cousin nodding thoughtfully like an adult, Kakashi laughed at himself. Reaching out and rubbing his cousin's head, unconsciously, our Hitaki family has also produced such an extraordinary genius. Speaking of the word genius, Kakashi's face flashed a trace of barely perceptible loneliness. Who hasn't been a genius praised and envied by everyone? Therefore, the moment he saw Hitaki Kusuo, Kakashi even had a trance illusion. By the way, you are already 5 years old this year, right? Counting the time, the ninja school should start. Although your swordsmanship is very powerful, the world of ninja is not a straightforward killing. Some necessary knowledge and ninjutsu must be learned. Do you have this plan? Seeing Kakashi looking at him expectantly, Hitaki Kusuo pondered for a while. At his age. Counting the timeline, it seems that he is in the same grade as Naruto and Sasuke. Who would have thought that these two reincarnated plug-in sons would become the saviors that no one could imagine in 10 years? However, with the system, Hitaki Kusuo is confident that he can surpass anyone with his own strength, just with the sword in his hand. In this case, it doesn't hurt to see the protagonists of the future ninja world in advance. Immediately. Okay, I promise you. Seeing his cousin agree so readily, Kakashi was a little surprised. He thought that geniuses like this would not bother to participate in such low-level things as ninja schools. He is like this, and so is Itachi. Graduate as soon as you have a chance. In that case, go and prepare. School will start next week. I will personally send you to school then. Feeling Kakashi's kindness, Kusuo Hitaki didn't say much. He understood that after losing Hitaki White Fang, the Hitaki clan only had Kakashi to fill the void. The following week. There was no change in Kusuo Hitaki's life. It was still hard training day after day, but the training content became breathing exercises and sun-breathing strikes. Accurately calculate your physical strength every day, and slash as long as you have energy, so as to improve the template acting degree. Every time you use the first form of sun-breathing, you can increase your acting degree by %. According to the progress, it only takes 1,000 times. Don't think it's easy. Sun-breathing is not an ordinary sword swing. Every time you use it, it will consume a lot of energy and physical strength. But for Kusuo Hitaki, who is infinitely eager to become stronger, all this is not a problem. Finally, the day before the ninja school is about to start, the system's voice sounded again. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully using sun-breathing 1,000 times. Unlock the first stage of the template. Current acting degree. 3%. Reward the host sun-breathing 2 type. Blue sky. Successfully open the pattern. Kusuo Hitaki felt that his body automatically had an extra memory, and his muscles seemed to have been strengthened. On the forehead, a black pattern rose from the right and gradually spread to the entire right forehead. The pattern is dark and mysterious, like ink embellishment, revealing a ferocious look between the fangs and claws. Such a pattern appeared on a 5-year-old child, extremely twisted but so harmonious. Gently stroking the pattern on his forehead, Kusuo Hitaki muttered to himself. Finally the pattern is activated. With the pattern, my strength has made a qualitative leap. In the Demon Slayer world, it was because a group of ancestral swordsmen had patterns on their foreheads that the demons were forced into a desperate situation. After the disappearance of the patterned warriors, the Demon Slayer Corps fell into a disadvantage, and they were extremely passive when facing the 12 strings of the Demon Moon. It is conceivable how powerful the pattern is. However, the activation of the pattern also indicates the limit of lifespan. No one who activates the pattern can live beyond the age of 25, with only one exception. That is the supreme swordsman Yorichi Sugakuni, who was born with the pattern. And it just so happens that the template inherited by Kusuo Hatake is Yorichi Sugakuni. So, in fact, I don't have to worry about the limit of lifespan. As long as I can completely unlock the template of Sugakushi Yorichi, I can become the second Sugakushi Yorichi. No. It's Sugakushi Yorichi who broke the limit and showed his talent in the Naruto world. Chapter 5. On the first day of the new book, within 24 hours, the author will update at least 10 chapters. Then, it means to update stably every day. At least 4 chapters. As an author who is eager to make a little money to support himself, I still guarantee this. In addition, in the new book stage, I urgently need your support. Everyone also knows the importance of the performance of the new book. If you like it, please support me more and send your flowers, evaluation tickets and monthly tickets. Here. The author thanks all the parents who feed and clothe me. We also have extra chapters here. Don't brag, let's be realistic and the requirements will not be too low. 5,000 flowers for 1 extra chapter. 2,000 evaluation tickets for 1 extra chapter. 50 monthly tickets for 1 more chapter. There is no need to spend money on rewards and urging for more chapters. Just have fun. I will do whatever I can here. I will add more chapters as needed. Please give me strength. I messed up the words. I am not Ultraman. Ahem, please give me more support for my new book. Thank you very much. In order to make this book successful, the author will be more motivated. Let's go for it. After all, the author is now counting on writing novels to make a living. Please give me monthly tickets. Please give me flowers. Please give me evaluation tickets. Any requests? Dot. Chapter 6. Early the next morning, Hatake Kakashi appeared outside Hatake Kusuo's window like a ghost. Faced with Kakashi who was so punctual, Hatake Kusuo was very surprised. In the original work, Kakashi was late for the first time when dealing with Naruto and the others, but he came so early for himself. It was obvious that he attached great importance to the start of school this time, or his studies. Let's go. After seeing Hatake Kusuo wake up, Kakashi said a word and disappeared. After Hatake Kusuo packed up, a stunning child in red clothes, ponytail and holding a knife was born. Along the way, Kakashi rested his head on his hands and walked leisurely on the street. Unexpectedly, Hatake Kusuo's outfit still attracted many people's attention. No way. Such a beautiful little boy, who can't take a second look. Yes, he is beautiful and handsome. Feeling the attention of passers-by, Hatake Kusuo did not have any waves in his heart, but there was a smile on his face, a smile full of confidence. Dad, he's so handsome. A little girl pulled her father and pointed at Kusuo Hatake shyly. The father was also amazed, but he didn't dare to say anything when he saw Kakashi next to Kusuo Hatake. The Hatake clan is still a big clan no matter how lonely it is, and there is a strong backbone like Kakashi Hatake. For a commoner like me, my daughter's admiration for him is destined to be just a luxury. Walk to the ninja school calmly. There were already many people gathered here. Kusuo Hatake glanced casually and recognized many celebrities. The serious middle-aged man seemed to be the contemporary head of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Fugaku. Beside Fugaku, Sasuke was raising his chin with a proud look, as if looking I am sorry for everyone present. In addition, among the crowd, the most eye-catching person is Naruto. Although no family members came to see him off, he was extremely active and chattered non-stop, jumping around the entire ninja school. In addition, the eldest daughter of the Hyuga family was shyly hiding aside, as well as the children of the big families such as Inoshika Cho. The arrival of Kusuo Hatake is undoubtedly a new focus. Such a perfect-looking boy with a warm smile on his face attracted the attention of all the little girls present as soon as he appeared. Kakashi. The child of the Hitaki family. Fugaku just glanced at him, and looked at him twice more because of Kakashi, but that was all. The same was true for the patriarchs of other families. So handsome. He seems to be more handsome than Sasuke. I really want to know his name. Sakura, who was around Naruto, became crazy about him, holding a heart in her hand and giving Kusuo Hitaki a loving look. And the same was true for Ino Yamanaka. The two cute little girls expressed their admiration at the same time, and looked at each other, full of gunpowder. Hey, hey! Naruto was so anxious when he saw that his goddess was so crazy about another boy. However, Sakura ignored him at all. This made Naruto even more angry. He ran directly to Kusuo Hitaki in a hurry and shouted loudly. Hey! Boy, do you have the courage to compete with me? Whoever loses is a pighead and can never get close to Sakura again. Naruto ignored Kakashi beside him and shouted loudly at Kusuo Hitaki. Kakashi touched his nose, looked at his cousin with a little amusement, and deliberately gave up his seat with a bad taste. He wanted to watch the good show of the two children. Kusuo Hitaki looked at Naruto. He didn't expect that Naruto would come to him just after he came to the ninja school. Good guy. It seems that he has stolen the limelight from Sasuke. He looked back at Sasuke and found that he was also staring at him with an unhappy face. We will be classmates in the future, there is no need to fight. Hitaki Kusuo shrugged and rejected Naruto. However, this seemed like a sign of weakness to Naruto, so he shouted even louder. What? You are a coward. If you are afraid, don't come to school. Lululu. After saying that, he made a face at Hitaki Kusuo. Alas! Why is there such a fool? Hitaki Kusuo raised his eyebrows and complained in his heart, but his appearance was still gentle. In this case, I will show mercy. Such an arrogant tone attracted the attention of many adults. He could face the provocation of others so calmly, without being impatient or impatient. This child has a good character. A patriarch of a big family commented like this. HMPH. Big talker. Take it. Naruto wiped his nose in dissatisfaction and ran up with his fists waved. It was a joke. Hitaki Kusuo was not serious at all. This kind of fight between children was not even worth Hitaki Kusuo drawing his sword. He kicked out and directly kicked Naruto to the ground. He calculated Naruto's physical fitness, and this could not hurt him at all. But the speed of this kick attracted everyone's attention. It was a bit too fast. It caught people off guard. It's interesting. Hyuga Hiyashi pointed out his only daughter Hinata. Daughter, you can get closer to him in the future, learn from each other, and remember that the burden of the Hyuga clan in the future will be on you. Hinata nodded ignorantly, hiding behind and watching Hitaki Kusuo curiously. What happened just now doesn't count, I'm not ready yet. After being kicked to the ground, Naruto quickly got up and wiped the dust off his face, gritting his teeth to continue the competition. He was ready to go, squatting with his legs bent, ready to attack again. No need, let's end this battle here. A figure appeared behind Naruto like a ghost, put his right hand on Naruto's shoulder, and said this lightly. Naruto was stunned. Others were also stunned. Only some experienced clan leaders of large families showed shocked expressions on their faces, and other children including parents opened their mouths in disbelief. Shocked. Everyone was shocked. Impossible. How can such speed appear on a child who has not yet been to school? This brat. Fugaku's eyes flashed scarlet. He used the Sharingan just now, so he saw the movements of Hitaki Kusuo completely. Hinata Hiyashi also had veins on his forehead, which was a symbol of opening the Byakugan. I didn't expect that a simple opening ceremony would allow me to discover such an interesting child. Hiyashi looked at Hitaki Kusuo and nodded, without saying anything else. On the Uchiha Fugaku side, Sasuke watched his father praising another child, staring at Hitaki Kusuo, feeling very jealous, because his father had never praised him like this. Chapter 7. Amid the exclamation of the crowd, Naruto's chattering mouth also shut up. He was shocked. Naruto had no idea how Hitaki Kusuo teleported behind him. It was like a gust of wind, a shadow flashed by, and his hand was on his shoulder. Let's stop the farce here. Nice to meet you, my name is Hitaki Kusuo. Hitaki Kusuo saw that Naruto had calmed down, so he restored his iconic smile. Naruto turned his back to him and nodded silently. Seeing this handsome boy with a gentle smile on his face, Naruto extended his hand to him. For the first time, Naruto felt embarrassed, as if he was the unreasonable child. He was very anxious. He blushed with shame and lowered his head. Sorry. I was too reckless just now. But Naruto changed the subject and said unconvincedly, but I will definitely beat you next time. Remember my name is Naruto, Uzumaki Naruto. Such a scene. Falling in the eyes of others, it caused a commotion. What a courageous boy, with such a temperament at such a young age, the future is limitless. Some parents sighed. Many clan leaders of large families have told their children to get closer to Hitaki Kusuo when they go to school. After all, this can be regarded as an exchange between wealthy families. At the very least, make friends. The children were confused and did not understand what their parents meant, so they just nodded. After the parents left, there was a brief class division ceremony. Needless to say, the children introduced by Kakashi were naturally assigned to the best class, the same class as the 12 little strongmen. Hitaki Kusuo spent the whole day in the curious eyes of the children, especially the little girls. They were at a simple and ignorant age, and handsome, warm, and powerful peers like Hitaki Kusuo could attract their attention the most. He completely stole the limelight that should belong to Sasuke. It was just that due to the glory and face of the Uchiha family, he could not challenge Naruto as impulsively. The first day of the ninja school was mostly some basic knowledge, and many of the contents had been learned by the children of the big family at home. This was also to make everyone adapt better. So school ended very early today. After school, the entrance of the ninja school was crowded with people again. It was just not as crowded as during the day, and the big heads like Fugaku and Hiyashi did not come. Nissan. A cheer of surprise rang out, and Sasuke ran towards the door happily. Hitaki Kusuo's heart moved. This is Sasuke's brother. After a closer look, he saw a teenage boy with long tear grooves on his face. His eyes were mature and elegant, and he was looking at Sasuke running towards him lovingly. Is this Itachi? Hitaki Kusuo looked at Uchiha Itachi without saying anything. In his heart. At present, Itachi is the only one in Konoha who can attract his attention. His cousin doesn't count, because he has gone astray, but Itachi is different. He is a true genius. Whether in combat or in character, he is far superior to ninjas of the same age. As for Naruto and Sasuke's cheeks, it will take many years to open. By coincidence, Hitaki Kusuo's eyes were also discovered by Itachi. Itachi noticed it and looked at Hitaki Kusuo in surprise, remembering an outstanding boy his father introduced to him when he came back today. Could it be this person? He immediately smiled and gestured, calling Sasuke to go home. He gently tapped Sasuke's forehead with 2 fingers. Let's go back early, brother, I still have a mission to complete today. Sasuke's face fell when he heard this, and he frowned. Nissan, didn't you say that you would teach me shuriken today when school starts? Itachi smiled. He had made excuses like today many times before, and he would do so many times in the future. It's just that he has an inseparable feeling for this young brother. Next time, definitely next time. After saying that, Itachi suddenly thought of something, and pulled Sasuke back to look at the already far away Hitaki Kusuo. Perhaps, you can contact your new classmates, and you can also increase your tacit understanding with each other. For some reason, Uchiha Itachi always felt that this young man had talents far beyond his father's praise. And it brought him a different feeling. The feeling was like facing Shisui. What? He's just an ordinary person who's a little faster. Compared to our Uchiha clan's Sharingan, what's so great about it? When I open my eyes like you, I will definitely make him fall under our Uchiha's Sharingan. Sasuke clenched his fists and said disdainfully. There was deep pride in his words. His sense of belonging to the Uchiha clan always made him feel very good and proud. Itachi shook his head seriously. Sasuke, don't underestimate anyone. I can feel that this child has a capacity far beyond ordinary people. Perhaps the strength he showed today is only a small part of himself. Although we are the Uchiha clan, there are still many families and ninjas in the ninja world who are not inferior to ours. Besides, the village has already begun. After hesitating for a while, Itachi smiled bitterly. The secrets of the family. It's too early for Sasuke to know now. Listening to his most admired brother praising another boy. This time, the fire of jealousy in Sasuke's heart burned to the extreme. It was as if his most precious treasure was taken away by someone else. He looked at the back of Hitaki Kusuo and gritted his teeth in his heart and said, Hitaki Kusuo, I will remember you. Chapter 8. Time flies. More than half a year has passed. Ellipsis. Ellipsis. Naruto. You again making trouble. Get back to your seat. Iruka put his hands on his waist and looked at Naruto jumping up and down in the classroom with a bad temper. After the classroom was finally quiet, he walked straight to the podium with a long document in his hand. Classmates, half a year of study has passed. Many students have performed very well. The teacher is very pleased. Although some students cannot keep up with the progress temporarily, they should not be discouraged. If they work hard and make every effort, they will have a chance to catch up. Okay, now I want to announce something. The final annual exam of this school year is coming soon. Everyone should pay attention to rest and diet after returning, and must be in the best condition to meet the next assessment. Iruka's words exploded among the students. No way. Annual exam. This is miserable. It's too difficult for me. Alas, I haven't learned the three-body technique yet. I can't throw the shuriken accurately. Don't mention it, who doesn't? Do you think everyone is as talented as Sasuke Kusuo? It's over, it's over. If I don't get a good grade in the annual exam, my father will definitely punish me severely. Almost all the classmates sighed and cried, only Kusuo Hitaki remained unmoved. He was also studying the courses of the ninja school, and all of his three-body techniques and shuriken techniques were evaluated as excellent. It was just that he was not so serious about the cultural subjects. The main reason was that he tried to practice the breathing method of full concentration every day, the breathing method of Changjong. This kind of training requires full attention in a highly tense mental state, and he even practices it when he sleeps every day. The rest of the time was spent on sword practice. Naturally, there was no time to learn those cultural subjects that did not help improve his strength. After all, what's the point of learning those? In Kusuo Hitaki's own words, a sword can chop down any enemy, so what's the point of learning those things? It's not a waste of time. Kusuo, don't worry, if it were you, you would definitely get a good grade. A shy little girl at the same table said in a low voice with her head down. It's Hinata, thank you for your concern. Hitaki Kusuo smiled and looked at Miss Hinata, who was too shy to look him in the face. His position was quite happy, with Hinata and Ino next to him. He was accompanied by her every day and flirted with them occasionally. Life in the ninja school was not so boring. Hinata's face turned redder when she heard what Hitaki Kusuo said. At this moment, her pure white eyes felt dizzy and her whole body felt dizzy. A stream of heat came out of her head. Ever since her father, Hinata Hiyashi, knew that her deskmate was Hitaki Kusuo, she would be mentioned countless times by her strict father every day when she returned home. As time went by, the name of Hitaki Kusuo was firmly engraved in Hinata's heart. Don't worry, Hinata. You don't know the strength of Kusuo-kun. He must be the best in our class. Yamanaka Ino looked at Hitaki Kusuo with admiration, and her tone was quite confident, as if she had already seen the result. On the side, Sasuke, who was sitting in front, heard this, raised his eyebrows, snorted with his nose, and was quite dissatisfied. HMPH. Iruka on the podium looked at Hitaki Kusuo, and the smile on his face was like the fourth generation of Hokage reappearing. Like. Too much alike. The two people are really too much alike. They are both like the dazzling sun, shining warmly on the world. Yes, compared to Sasuke with a cold face, Hitaki Kusuo, who has always adhered to the principle of gentleness, has a very good popularity. Ding! Congratulations to the host for improving his role-playing degree. Current role-playing degree, 4%. Unlock the third form of sun breathing, fiery sun red mirror. A sudden system voice sounded in his ears. Hitaki Kusuo raised his mouth slightly. Sure enough, playing the character of Sugikoku Yoshichi is also a very important part. But one thing that bothered him was that he had almost become a central air conditioner in the past 6 months, in other words, a popular warm man. If he looked ugly and other conditions were not so good, it would be fine. But he was so handsome and strong that almost all the girls in the school fantasized about him as their dream lover. This inadvertently brought him a lot of trouble. Forget it, let's take it one step at a time. Who made me so handsome? I am also helpless. With a slight sigh in his heart, Hitaki Kusuo could do nothing about his personal charm. No way. It means that being handsome means you can do whatever you want. Hokage office. The elderly third Hokage wore the Hokage god robe, holding a pipe and looking at the report in his hand. How is Naruto's recent condition? Has there been any uncontrollable phenomenon? He casually asked the Anbu next to him. The Anbu member wearing a cat mask knelt on one knee and answered in a deep voice. Report to the Hokage, Naruto has been stable in the past 6 months. He has made many friends in the ninja school and his mood is quite stable. Yes. Sarutobi Hiruzen responded lightly and continued to look at the report card of the students in the ninja school this year. As expected of an Uchiha child, Sasuke is not as amazing as Itachi, but his grades are still far ahead of others. He made a casual comment, and the Anbu members on the ground were shocked. I don't know if the third generation is a pun. The village's recent targeting of Uchiha's getting more and more intense. Especially Danzo-sama. This Hitaki Kusuo is interesting. His ninjutsu scores are so outstanding in the school that he even surpasses many children in the graduating class. Huh. Why are the theoretical scores so bad? Hiruzen was about to say that the Hitaki family finally had another great genius. After all, the Hitaki family, whether it was White Fang or Kakashi, could be considered his Hokage lineage. But the next second he was broken by Hitaki Kusuo's terrible cultural scores. No. People who only focus on martial arts training and not inner strength will have problems sooner or later. It seems that it's time for me to go to school to promote the will of fire. Chapter 9. The annual exam came as scheduled. Many students were nervous and uneasy when they participated. After Uruka and several teachers led the students of Class 1 out, they stood in front of everyone and began to read out the content of this exam. Because it was not a graduating class and most of them were 5 or 6 years old, the content of the 3 body techniques was not included in the scope of the exam. The general scope of the assessment is still Shuriken Jutsu and single-player duel. Anyway, there are still very few monsters like Hitaki Kusuo. Kakashi is the only one who knows that he has fully mastered the 3-body technique. Even the teachers in the academy don't know. With Kakashi's instructions, Hitaki Kusuo began to deliberately hide his strength. In addition to the need to polish his swordsmanship all the time, he tried not to expose his strength as long as he could. But this is only a stopgap measure. Hitaki Kusuo is confident that when he further unlocks some skills and breaks through his strength, it doesn't matter even if he has been targeted by Danzo and others. No matter how turbulent the flood is, I will cut it off with one sword. Hitaki Kusuo is confident. Swoosh. Several shurikens flew at the wooden stakes lined up in a row and hit the bull's eye. Sasuke, the score is 98 points. The Chunin teacher who was recording the results on the side took a look at the kunai on the target and read out the results loudly. 98 points. This means that Sasuke hit at least 9-10 rings, with only one slightly off. This result is already very good at this age, even though there is no interference and no orbit calculation. Wow! As expected of Sasuke, he can actually fire the shuriken so accurately. So handsome. I wish I could get half of Sasuke's score later. A cry of envy rang out, which made Sasuke very happy, and he raised his chin coldly. When he walked past Hitaki Kusuo, he deliberately glared at him. Ah! Hitaki Kusuo was speechless. This little brat, is he so hostile to him? Next, Sasaki Aki. The Chunin examiner loudly pointed out the next student to participate in the test. 67 points. Great. A boy with a pointed face and monkey cheeks excitedly waved his fist. As members of an ordinary family, they don't have as many resources as the wealthy families. Their goal is very clear, that is, pass the exam. As long as they can pass the assessment every time, they will graduate successfully and become a ninja. Even if the three-body technique and other skills are not so good, a low-level ninja forehead protector is still no problem. After Sasaki Aki, there were several other children who cheered for their passing. Occasionally, a few who were really bad could only hang their heads in dejection when the Chunin teacher shook his head. Next, Hitaki Kusuo. Finally, it was Hitaki Kusuo's turn to test. At this moment, everyone looked up at him as if they had agreed. Attention. The whole audience was paying attention. Facing the whole class, even other classes and seniors, Hitaki Kusuo shook his head helplessly. Being so valued is inconsistent with his original intention of keeping a low profile. There was no choice but to walk to the center of the test field step by step, and Kusuo Hitaki took out 10 shurikens from the box. Hiss. What is Kusuo going to do? Is he planning to launch 10 shurikens at the same time? Isn't this too scary? It seems that Kusuo is planning to do this. When others saw his actions, they all exclaimed. Before, everyone who threw shurikens basically aimed one by one for a long time before launching. Even Sasuke and Neji, who were praised as geniuses, could only throw 2 at a time. The exaggerated performance of Kusuo Hitaki holding 10 shurikens in his hand was a world of difference. The friends were all stunned. Whoosh! 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 The sound of breaking through the air sounded instantly. Many people didn't react at all, and in the blink of an eye, Kusuo Hitaki's hands were empty. This is too fast. As expected of Kusuo-kun. This is such a cool move. The Chunin teacher next to the target was even more stunned. Ah! This accuracy! At such a young age, with such strength, it seems that the Hitaki family has produced another monster. He is an old ninja who participated in the 3 wars, so he is naturally quite knowledgeable. The shuriken thrown by Hitaki Kusuo, whether in terms of strength or speed, far exceeds those of his peers. He was even unwilling to admit that Kusuo Hitaki's shuriken throwing skills were better than his. Full marks. After a few seconds of hesitation, Iruka saw that the scoring teacher next to him had not recovered yet, so he announced loudly. In his eyes, full of admiration for this gifted child, Iruka treated him like Naruto, and liked to observe a person's world from the heart. Kusuo Hitaki had a superior appearance. And his every move was full of invisible charm. The most important thing was that he was not as arrogant as Sasuke, and always maintained a peaceful and friendly heart. But this kind of gentleness was not for everyone. He had seen Kusuo Hitaki beat away several villains who bullied the vegetable vendor. He was decisive and not dragged his feet at all. I hope you can grow up safely. In the future, you will definitely be a figure like the 4th generation, right? Iruka murmured, expressing his blessings to Kusuo Hitaki. But, damn it! On the other side, Sasuke, who had just accepted everyone's congratulations and envy for a short time, curled his lips in disdain, his eyes full of anger. Obviously, no one threw shuriken at the same time, he must have done it on purpose to attract everyone's attention. It must be like this. Sasuke's little heart was full of frustration, and he began to be angry when he looked at Hitaki Kusuo. P.S. Please give me flowers, monthly tickets, and comments, thank you. Chapter 10. The shuriken test was quickly completed in batches under the leadership of each Chunin teacher. Next is the most tense and anticipated practical session. In the first semester, everyone is usually not very familiar with each other, and the opponent is decided by drawing lots. But for other students, the only thing they can beg for now is not to meet Hitaki Kusuo. His strength is really too strong. So strong that many of his peers are terrified. so that the object of admiration and love, at this time, everyone looks at him with a little fear. No way. Who wants to be tortured? Sasuke and Neji, the so-called geniuses, are fine, they are not too far beyond the level of ordinary people. Hitaki Kusuo. That is the most perverted existence. There is even a legend circulating in the senior grades of the school. That is, everyone only sees Kusuo carrying a sword to class every day, but no one has ever seen him draw his sword. It seems that in the whole school, no one is worthy of him drawing his sword. Therefore, although Hitaki Kusuo faces everyone with a sunny smile every day, now, everyone is a little afraid. Except one person. Hey, Sasuke, do you dare to accept my challenge? I am the one who will become the Hokage in the future. Naruto took a step forward and put his hands on his waist towards Sasuke, and loudly issued his challenge. Sasuke's mind is completely on Hitaki Kusuo. How can he care about Naruto, who seems insignificant to him? Go away. You are the last one. Sasuke scolded without hesitation. Naruto didn't care about the impatient expression on Sasuke's face at all, but became more excited. Coward. You must be afraid of me, otherwise why don't you dare to compete with me alone? Ha ha ha. Everyone couldn't help but cover their faces after hearing Naruto's words. They were so ashamed that they didn't want to know this guy, who was actually their classmate. Isn't this provocation too low level? How could anyone be fooled? Huh. Okay. I accept your challenge first. However, what everyone didn't expect was that Sasuke actually agreed angrily. Then, I saw him say something to Iruka when he ran to the instructor. Iruka looked at him, then looked at Kusuo Hitaki, and seemed to be in a dilemma. After a long time. Only then did Iruka nod. Sasuke excitedly waved his fist and quickly came to Naruto's side. Let's go, the last one, I will let you know the gap between us. When he walked to Kusuo Hitaki, he snorted heavily again, as if to demonstrate. Watching Naruto and Sasuke walk onto the test bench, the classmates gathered around like they were watching a good show. Anyway, it's not their turn now, so it's always good to watch other people's good shows. Kusuo-kun, who do you think will win? A mosquito-like voice came from beside Kusuo Hitaki. Ah. Looking down, it was Hinata who was asking, her two white and tender hands entwined helplessly. Hee, of course it's Sasuke. Kusuo Hitaki quickly gave the answer. At this stage, the gap between Naruto and Sasuke is actually quite large, and it's no problem for Sasuke to crush Naruto unilaterally. Oh, is that so? Hinata's voice became as small as a mosquito after she said that. In her heart, she still hopes that Naruto can win. On the one hand, it's the memory of her childhood, and on the other hand, it's sympathy for the weak. However, since Kusuo-kun has said that Sasuke will win, then Sasuke will definitely win. Looking at Hinata's cute and shy look, Kusuo Hitaki couldn't help but smile. He reached out and touched her cute little head, but he didn't expect to scare Hinata away, like a frightened little rabbit. Sure enough, the two people on the stage basically took only 1 minute to decide the winner. Sasuke relied on the advantages of innate education in a large family, and in all aspects they all crushed Naruto, and beat him in all kinds of ways, making Naruto unable to get up from the ground. Okay. Both sides stop. Iruka stopped both sides in time, and Naruto reluctantly signed the seal of reconciliation with Sasuke in an extremely unwilling state. Naruto was killed in a simple and neat manner. Sasuke, who was full of confidence, almost raised his chin to the sky, enjoying the attention of the audience. Next. Sasuke's actions shocked everyone. He stretched out his hands and pointed at Kusuo Hitaki who was standing aside and watching the show. Teacher Iruka, I want to challenge Kusuo Hitaki. Huh. No way. Did I hear it right? Sasuke dared to challenge Kusuo-kun. Kusuo-kun is so scary. Is Sasuke really his opponent? That's not necessarily true. Didn't you see Sasuke just cleaned up Naruto? You should know that the test is not just standing there and letting you throw shuriken. Reaction, knowledge, battlefield judgment ability, etc. are all indispensable. Sasuke was born in a big family like our Uchiha, so he must be far ahead of Kusuo Hatake. I'm optimistic about Sasuke. Immediately, a child from the Uchiha family spoke for Sasuke in the audience. Everyone listened. It made sense, and nodded in agreement. Kusuo Hatake stood there indifferently. For him, it was a waste of effort to beat anyone. He even felt that the competition between them was just like playing house. Sugikoku Yuichi's monster-level talent is no joke. The movements of their hands. Almost all of them were flaws in their own eyes. Just like a king-level player versus a bronze rookie, their awareness and operation are completely different levels. Everyone's hearts were full of expectations. Who will win when two geniuses compete? Seeing that teacher Iruka actually nodded for the first time, cheers suddenly rang out at the scene. In the spotlight, Hatake Kusuo slowly stepped onto the platform. Ellipsis. Chapter 11. I don't know whether Sasuke-kun will win or Kusuo-kun will win. The two people on the stage have already stood firm, and the students watching are talking about it. If you ask me, it must be that guy Kusuo Hatake who will win. After all, his strength has always been very strong and it is completely unfathomable. Humph, how is it possible? The winner must be Sasuke. Our Uchiha family has always produced many geniuses. Whether it is our fathers or the seniors of the previous few years, the top student has always been won by people from our Uchiha family. The disciple of the Uchiha family stood up again, with a tone full of pride. Everyone suddenly realized and nodded frequently. It's just that the tone of this disciple of the Uchiha family is too arrogant. Some people want to refute, but they opened their mouths and found that they couldn't say anything. Indeed. Whether it is the current head of the Uchiha clan, Fugaku, or the former genius Shisui and Itachi. Each one is a brilliant existence. Now Sasuke is so outstanding, it's no surprise that he may also defeat Kusuo Hatake to become the top student, right? Ordinary tests are different from single-player actual combat. This is to see the real thing. Many people felt bitter at the thought that someone from the Uchiha family might be elected as the top student again. No. I believe in Kusuo-kun. Kusuo-kun can definitely beat Sasuke and become the top student of our class. Someone suddenly raised a rebuttal, and everyone looked at it and saw that it was Yamanaka Ino. Long golden hair, pointed chin, and eyes full of determination. She was shouting loudly with her arms clenched and fists open. Come on. Kusuo-kun, you must beat Sasuke hard. Let them know how powerful we are. Many people stared at the girl who was shouting and cheering, and were a little dazed. Then, the whole audience burst into shocking shouts. Yes. Kusuo-san, you are so strong that you can do it. We must fight for our children from common families. To be honest, Kusuo Hatake, who was born in the Hatake family, is not a commoner, but compared to the giant Uchiha clan, it is not an exaggeration to say that he is a commoner. Come on. Kusuo-kun. Hinata hid in a small corner alone, secretly watching Kusuo Hatake on the stage, and also clenched her fist to cheer him on. The cheers from the audience were deafening, but the stage was calm. Tisk. Boring tricks. Sasuke could naturally hear the cheers from the audience. Except for a few children from the family, almost all of them cheered for Kusuo Hatake. This strong contrast made him even more angry. Why? Why did a guy who didn't know where he came from take away all his limelight? Damn it. As a member of the Uchiha family. Not only his father, brother, but even his classmates stood on the opposite side of him. I must make you see how powerful we Uchiha are. Sasuke swore with gritted teeth. The game begins. At the same time, Iruka also announced the start of the actual fight. Boom. As soon as Iruka finished speaking, Sasuke, who was full of anger, quickly approached and wanted to catch Hatake Kusuo off guard. Snap. A crisp sound. Hatake Kusuo calmly grasped Sasuke's flying fist with his hand. Seeing that the sneak attack failed, Sasuke wanted to turn around and adjust before preparing, but at this moment, he suddenly found that his fist the head can't move. It didn't move at all even though Hatake Kusuo seemed to be pinching it casually. How strong is this guy? Ignoring the shock in his heart, Sasuke quickly dodged and tried to bend down and use his feet to free himself. Too slow and too obvious. Hitaki Kusuo said this lightly, and then lifted up the hand holding Sasuke. Immediately, Sasuke's whole body was lifted up by Hitaki Kusuo and stood in the air. If the glory of Uchiha is only this level, it really makes people feel a little disappointed. Bang! A loud noise. Sasuke was thrown several meters away by him. Hiss. Shocked. Everyone was shocked, staring at this scene blankly. The crowd watching the game below the stage had unbelievable eyes and swallowing sounds. Silence. The whole audience was silent. I thought it was a fight between two dragons and tigers, a fight between two sides with equal strength. But I didn't expect it to end right at the beginning. Sasuke only threw one punch from beginning to end, and then he was grabbed and thrown out by Hitaki Kusuo. Combined with Hitaki Kusuo's calm expression, everyone seemed to realize that this guy had always been very calm. He didn't take Sasuke seriously from beginning to end. How could this happen? Sasuke looked at everyone who was shocked by Hitaki Kusuo, and he was thrown out casually like a puppy and ignored. Under such a strong contrast, the insult made Sasuke's eyes red, like blood, filling up quickly. Anger. Strong anger. After being stimulated by this long accumulated anger, Sasuke's eyes felt a little painful. You bastard! Sasuke ignored the pain in his eyes, jumped up, roared and attacked Hitaki Kusuo again. This time, he still couldn't even touch the edge of his clothes. Hitaki Kusuo just turned around and easily avoided Sasuke's attack. Then, a kick. A light kick. Light and fluttering. Puff. Sasuke was kicked off the stage from behind and fell to the ground with a dog-eaten shit. Sasuke. The child in front of him happened to be a child of the Uchiha family. Sasuke widened his eyes and lay on the ground in disbelief. No matter how the children of the same family shouted in front of him, and all the movements in the audience seemed to have nothing to do with him. During this period, the anger that had been brewing in Sasuke's brain suddenly exploded, pouring into his eyes from deep in his brain, and the pain deepened. Swish. The black pupils suddenly contracted, and then turned blood red as blood. The next second, a tadpole-shaped magatama flowed in it. Uchiha family. Sharingan. Open. Chapter 12. Sharingan. The exclamation from the audience made Kusuo Hitaki concerned. I didn't expect that the stimulation I brought to Sasuke was so great that Sasuke, who had only opened one magatama when his clan was exterminated, opened his eyes in advance. It seems that because of me, the plot of the original work has slowly begun to change. I don't know whether it is good or bad. However, Kusuo Hitaki quickly threw this thought behind his mind. Sasuke returned to the stage with his scarlet Sharingan open. This time, he had unparalleled confidence on his face. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have opened my eyes. As a thank you, I will defeat you. Just watch, Kusuo Hitaki. You will soon be able to appreciate the power of our Uchiha clan's Sharingan. After opening his eyes, Sasuke was full of confidence. Facing the famous Ijutsu Sharingan in the ninja world, even if it was just one magatama, Kusuo Hitaki immediately became more serious. Whoosh! A figure flashed by quickly. I didn't expect that Sasuke's strength would be much improved after opening his eyes. Just the momentum alone was far better than before. But if that's all, that's all. Hitaki Kusuo, who keenly caught Sasuke's movements, had a smile on his face, and he took up the sword at his waist. Dang! Sparks flew. The sound of metal colliding rang out. Instantly, the two collided with each other. Sasuke held a sharp kunai in his hand, while Hitaki Kusuo held a scabbard in his hand. After opening his eyes, Sasuke's eyes were obviously much sharper, and he directly blocked Hitaki Kusuo's attack. You don't even draw your sword. Sasuke saw that Hitaki Kusuo was so arrogant in front of himself who had opened the Sharingan, and he didn't even draw his sword. His eyes widened and his anger became stronger. Haha, after opening your eyes, your overall quality has improved a lot. You even caught my speed. It seems that the reputation of the Uchiha clan is not in vain. But I am not worthy of using a sword against you. You should be proud of being able to let me use a weapon, even if it is just a scabbard. Hitaki Kusuo praised the crazy Sasuke lightly, and his right hand holding the scabbard suddenly exerted magic power, and a huge force pressed towards Sasuke like a tidal wave. Damn it! Sasuke roared. Never thought that he would be suppressed by the opponent even though he had opened his eyes, and Sasuke's heart was full of frustration. Slowly. He gradually knelt on the ground with his legs, which was suppressed by the huge force exerted by Hitaki Kusuo. Okay. Let's go home. The game ends here. Hitaki Kusuo calmly glanced at Sasuke, who was suppressed by him and couldn't move, and kicked him down. Bang! Sasuke fell to the ground again, leaving a small human-shaped pit. Silence. Silence. Everyone looked at each other, and the scene was silent. Hiss. This Kusuo is too strong. So strong. Even Sasuke who opened the Sharingan is not his opponent. Countless swallowing sounds were heard, and everyone looked at Hitaki Kusuo with some admiration. In front of real strength, jealousy is not enough. Stop the fight. The winner is Hitaki Kusuo. Hitaki Kusuo, who witnessed everything, looked at Sasuke lying on the ground with a complicated expression, and then announced the result of the battle loudly. Hitaki Kusuo. He defeated Sasuke with an unparalleled crushing momentum and won the victory completely. At the same time, the title of this year's top student naturally fell on his head. Yeah. The whole audience cheered. Everyone was proud of Hitaki Kusuo. Many children from ordinary families regard Hitaki Kusuo as their idol and are deeply proud of him. Hitaki Kusuo, who accepted everyone's blessings with a smile, walked down the stage and was surrounded by countless classmates. Everyone looked at him warmly and cautiously, but they were a little afraid to approach him. Instead, he waved to Hinata, who was alone in the distance, and walked forward and pinched her cheek. Hinata's little face turned red in an instant. Nan. Kusuo-kun. Hinata was also very happy, but she couldn't open her mouth because so many people were watching. Congratulations, Kusuo-kun. Knowing that Kusuo Hitaki had left, Hinata said in a voice that only she could hear. The annual exam was just a small episode for Kusuo Hitaki. He returned home. He continued his boring training day after day. The process of sword training is like this, there is no shortcut except to keep swinging the sword. System, query the role-playing degree. Current role-playing degree, %. Suo Hitaki, who was sweating profusely, wiped his sweat with a towel and nodded with satisfaction at the role-playing degree panel. I will unlock the next sun calling sword skill soon. I am really looking forward to it. After the sun-breathing sword skills were improved by the system, the power was greatly increased, but the consumption was also extremely terrifying. The amount of training he could do every day was limited, so a lot of time was spent on the full concentration breathing Changjong. If I could have the 3 little ones in Demon Slayer to help me, I wouldn't have to worry about forgetting to use the full concentration breathing every night when I go to bed. But this is impossible, the system will not reward her with a few living people. So, how can I solve this problem? Holding his chin, Kusuo Hitaki fell into deep thought. Several characters emerged in his mind, including the cute Ino and the always shy Hinata. For no reason, Naruto's face also appeared in his mind. Naruto. Oh my god, Hitaki Kusuo shook his head vigorously, and let Naruto lie on his bedside late at night to supervise his training. It's scary to think about it. Chapter 13. Life after the annual exam of the ninja school was quite peaceful. I don't know what Sasuke experienced after returning home, and he was no longer so provocative when facing Hitaki Kusuo. This year, he has become more introverted. For Hitaki Kusuo, the courses in the ninja school are quite boring. At this time, he wanted to quickly learn a technique, shadow clone technique. Cousin Hitaki Kusuo, who had made up his mind, has been squatting these days. Kakashi's whereabouts are unpredictable every day, and he is rarely caught. Look, Hitaki Kusuo, who has been practicing swordsmanship in the yard for half a day, finally waited for Kakashi's return. Huh? Is there something wrong, Kusuo? Kakashi looked at Hitaki Kusuo in surprise. I want to learn the shadow clone technique. Hitaki Kusuo didn't beat around the bush when facing his cousin. Shadow clone technique. Kakashi touched his chin and instantly understood what his genius cousin wanted to do. Didn't your parents leave you a scroll? No, I've searched everywhere at home, and there's no scroll for this ninjutsu. I understand, I'll give you the scroll in the evening, but remember not to get carried away and take every opponent seriously. Any genius is always not satisfied with what they have in school. Kakashi is like this, and so is Itachi. The purpose of Kusuo Hitaki learning the shadow clone technique is nothing more than skipping classes to practice swordplay. This little thought. Kakashi knows it well. Seeing that Kakashi agreed to him, Kusuo Hitaki, who achieved his goal, returned to his yard contentedly and began his repetitive swordplay. During this year, Konoha is undercurrent. Only some extremely sensitive people can feel that the conflict between the village and a certain wealthy family seems to be getting more and more intense. Both sides have reached the point where water and fire are incompatible. Finally completed. Finally unlocked the next stage of sun breathing. Kusuo Hitaki breathed a sigh of relief. Just now, the system prompted that his template performance reached 5%, successfully unlocking the next form of the sun-breathing sword technique. Form 4 Illusionary Sun Rainbow. A specialized dodge dance that uses high-speed twisting and spinning. But the better the eyesight, the clearer the user's afterimage will be. So if you want to be superb, you have to rely on your own strength. Otherwise, the eyes of the Hyuga and Uchiha clans are likely to see through his movements. Anyway, the means of attack have been enriched. But this is not enough. Real strength is all-round strength. The sun-breathing combat technique can only make me less passive in actual combat and can attack the enemy in a variety of ways. The most urgent thing at the moment is to master the full concentration breathing, the breathing method of the normal breathing. Kusuo Hitaki looked at the gourds of various sizes that had been broken into pieces around him, and frowned slightly. He is making rapid progress now. If the forehead pattern does not open, he can basically fight against a Chunin-level opponent alone. If the pattern is activated, his own strength can be improved to a higher level. Even so, he still can't get the key to the method of breathing in full concentration. He has a hunch. His usual training is in place. But there is always a last-minute barrier that stops him from succeeding. To break this dilemma, maybe another help is needed. Sasuke. Don't leave after school. Let's fight again. In the ninja school, Naruto found Sasuke again, wanting to challenge him. Sasuke looked at Naruto's face. His eyelids twitched. Well, it's this annoying guy again. Why say again? That's because Naruto always comes to pick on Sasuke. As a last-place student, can't he just stay in school and be the last one? Sasuke is tired. No time. He said this coldly, turned around and looked at Hitaki Kusuo, who had already turned around and walked out, then left. Nissan. As soon as he went out, he saw his dear brother Uchiha Itachi coming to pick him up in person. The unhappiness on Sasuke's face instantly disappeared, and he jumped on him with joy. Itachi touched Sasuke's head, smiled and prepared to take him back. At this time, Sasuke said, Nissan, wait. He saw Hitaki Kusuo and wanted to catch up with him to arrange a time for a new challenge. For the past year, he has begged his brother Uchiha Itachi and his father to teach him every day, and basically spent his time in extra training after school. He is confident that he has far surpassed himself a year ago in both Shuriken Jutsu and Taijutsu. With my eyes, Hitaki Kusuo, I will definitely defeat you. Sasuke said confidently while running. Itachi also saw the figure of Hitaki Kusuo, and he also became curious about this genius who was said to be the new class of the ninja school. If nothing else, it could stimulate Sasuke to open his eyes in advance, which was a big deal in the whole clan. So, he followed. Hitaki Kusuo didn't know how, but he ran very fast, and after many turns, he actually arrived at an empty alley. Then he looked around, sneakily, and saw that there was no one. Bang! A burst of white smoke rose. Hitaki Kusuo's entire figure disappeared. Only Sasuke and Uchiha Itachi, who had just witnessed all this, were left. This. How could this happen? Sasuke was stunned, and his heart was like a storm. This is the shadow clone technique. So that's it, have the people who have been going to school all this time been clones? Itachi's eyes above the two deep tear grooves also became deep at this time. It's very similar to mine back then. Hitaki Kusuo, what an interesting boy. Chapter 14. On the other side, Kusuo Hitaki, who was swinging his sword at home, suddenly felt his spirit stagnate, and the information of the shadow clone for a whole day poured into his mind. Hey, it's another dull day. Shaking his head, he didn't care about it and continued his training. Illusionary sun rainbow. After the words fell. Swish. Breaking through the air. A sharp blade cut through the sky. A crescent-like sword light was cut out, as dazzling as a rainbow under the illusionary sun, but only those who came into close contact with the blade could feel its sharpness and danger. Hu tilde. Kai tilde hu tilde kai tilde. The long and dense breathing rose and fell in Kusuo Hitaki's chest, and he felt that his full concentration breathing had reached the critical point. Perhaps it was because of the chakra in this world. Perhaps it was because the power system was fully sublimated and the talent was further integrated. Kusuo Hitaki deeply felt that he might need an opportunity to break through. And this opportunity. He still didn't know what it was. Current role-playing degree, %. Jikuni Yuanichi's role-playing degree was not far from unlocking the next achievement. Now the role-playing degree that can be increased by swinging the sword and using combat skills every day is already very small. Want to break through again? I'm afraid. Only real fighting is what I need to do now. With this thought in mind, Hitaki Kusuo picked up his sword, put on his clothes and set off under the moonlight. His goal was the remote training ground of Konoha. The empty Konoha training ground. It was deserted. Except for the youth duo, few people come here. Hitaki Kusuo, who doesn't want others to see his sword skills, often comes here. This time, he walked closer step by step. At the same time, in the woods at the far end of the training ground, a lonely figure stood on a branch, wearing an animal mask of the Anbu on his head. How do you know me? You evaded the investigation of the Konoha guards and investigated the secret stone of the Nanga shrine. The figure of another person was also hidden in the darkness, and his face could not be seen clearly, but it could be vaguely seen that he was also wearing a mask. I'm just more interested in you. Itachi didn't feel nervous at all about being discovered. His cold eyes, with a taste of scrutiny, shot straight at him through the mask. Uchiha Madara. Or Uchiha Obito smiled when he heard it. I learned from there what kind of person you are and what kind of thoughts you have, so just say it directly. You should also know how much hatred I have for Konoha and the Uchiha clan as a member of the Uchiha clan. From a distance, Hitaki Kusuo's pupils shrank when he heard this. Itachi has already contacted Obito. I have a condition. I will help you to avenge the Uchiha clan, but you cannot attack the village. Also, you cannot touch Uchiha Sasuke. You know the consequences. With a warning, after saying this, Itachi's figure disappeared from the spot. Very soon. Obito's face also slowly twisted in the fluctuations of space and disappeared immediately. Tisk, I didn't expect to encounter a big secret. Hitaki Kusuo waited until the two left before walking out. He originally came to the training ground to test his moves, but he didn't expect to have an unexpected gain and ran into this incident. It seems that the night of the Uchiha clan's massacre is not far away. With a sigh, Hitaki Kusuo drew his sword. There was no ripple on his calm face, and he was completely indifferent. Even if the Uchiha clan was exterminated, it was certainly a big deal, but what did all this have to do with him? This matter has escalated into an internal struggle in the village. He doesn't want to save, nor does he have the ability to save. Hitaki Kusuo only wants to protect the people he cares about. Right now. The only fundamental thing is to improve his own strength. As long as the strength is strong enough, any conspiracy is not in vain. Sun breathing form 1 round dance. The sun breathing technique that has been held back for a long time finally has room to play, and Hitaki Kusuo has used 100% of his strength this time. No need to worry about his small courtyard being unable to withstand it and getting in the way. Boom. The huge fire dragon devoured everything as the blade swung, and a bright light flashed in the dark night. The swordsmanship is good, and this ninjutsu is also good. Suddenly, a cold voice came from behind. In the dark night, the figure could not be seen clearly, only a pair of scarlet eyes came into view, which made people feel creepy. Itachi. Didn't you leave just now? Hitaki Kusuo was a little surprised after seeing the person coming clearly. I guess you heard all the previous conversations. Itachi walked towards Kusuo Hitaki step by step, and a huge pressure came over him. So, do you want to kill people to silence them? Suo Hitaki still had an indifferent tone. He was sure that Itachi had no intention of killing at this moment. Since he could find out that he was eavesdropping and had not stopped his conversation with Obito, it could only mean one thing. Itachi did it on purpose. Or, he sensed his unexpected intrusion and played along without interfering. Well, my father once mentioned you, and Sasuke was defeated by you. Let me see how strong you are. Itachi, who said this, suddenly used the instant body technique to attack. So fast. Kusuo Hitaki was shocked. Usually, only others would say that he was fast. But this time was different. Kusuo Hitaki met Uchiha Itachi, the first genius of Konoha, and he was still dwarfed by him. Quickly adjusting his breathing rhythm, Kusuo Hitaki instantly entered a state of full concentration breathing. Huff. The sound of kunai and knife colliding. Clear and sharp. When Hitaki Kusuo looked up, he met Itachi's scarlet eyes. The windmill-like kaleidoscope shape slowly turned. Not good. Tsukuyomi. Hitaki Kusuo was shocked. At this moment, he was helpless against illusions. If he was hit by Tsukuyomi, he would almost certainly lose. The two swords touched and opened. Itachi's voice came from behind again. Don't close your eyes. I can't use pupil techniques on you. The tone was quite calm, and the words were very wild, as if this sentence was natural. Hitaki Kusuo narrowed his eyes slightly. In that case. Stripes, open. The black stripes on the right forehead quickly moved on his face, and the hot stripes showed a red enchantment. Itachi frowned slightly when he saw this scene, and suddenly felt that the action of his hand to meet the attack was much heavier. Your strength has suddenly increased a lot. Itachi commented, unable to withstand the slash of Kusuo Hitaki. Really? But it's not just my strength that has increased. Look at this move, Sun Breathing Form 3, Fiery Sun Red Mirror. Puff. A huge red arc-shaped slash, wrapped around the sword, flashed by. Powerful sword energy. It instantly cut Itachi's body in the middle. P.S. Please give me flowers and comment. I'm asking for monthly votes. The performance of the new book is very important. Please support it, handsome men and beautiful women. Chapter 15. The power of the Higurashi fighting technique is huge, and the speed and range are impeccable. One strike. Just one strike. It cut Itachi's body in half. Of course, Hitaki Kusuo will not let down his guard and think that he can hurt Uchiha Itachi with this move. His eyes are as sharp as a hawk. Hitaki Kusuo tightly grasped the knife and looked at the opposite side calmly. Soon. The scene changed. Itachi's body, which was cut in half, suddenly turned into a group of crows, flapping its wings and flying into the air. You are quite strong, no wonder you can easily defeat Sasuke with your ability. The moment the voice sounded, Itachi's body appeared on a big tree in the distance again. The cold eyes shot through the air directly at Hitaki Kusuo, who held the knife horizontally and looked at him in the same way. Swish. Uchiha Itachi moved. 10 shurikens were skillfully pulled out from Itachi's palm, and after colliding with each other in the air, they were shot at strange and tricky angles. Clang. Hitaki Kusuo raised his sword and began to parry, with a series of clanging sounds. Fire style, Phoenix Claw Red. Itachi spit out hot flames from his mouth, and the burning waves stained the kunai he fired. Uchiha Itachi is a man who should not be underestimated. Hitaki Kusuo kept waving his sword to parry, but it was getting harder and harder. Knowing that the current situation was not favorable to him, Hitaki Kusuo would naturally not waste time. One sword. The terrible slash flew out. This blow was even more terrifying than the previous one. Sun breathing 2 type, blue sky. The slash from top to bottom instantly cleared the flaming shurikens that Itachi kept firing at. Hitaki Kusuo finally got a break to catch his breath. He had been trying his best to keep his breathing in full concentration during the previous fight. Now his chest was heaving violently and was about to reach the end. Itachi remained silent and formed seals with his hands at the speed of light. Fire style, great fireball technique. The Uchiha clan's signature fire style was instantly cast in Itachi's hands. He was so skilled. A huge ball of flame seemed to have set off a sea of fire, and was about to swallow Hitaki Kusuo. Looking at the fireball coming towards him, Hitaki Kusuo wanted to dodge it very much, but he knew that if he just kept dodging in this battle, he would never be Itachi's opponent. Even if I use all the sun-breathing techniques I have mastered, it will still be the same. Hitaki Kusuo, who was out of breath, looked determined. He understood. Itachi had let him win a lot. And the skills he had mastered would be useless if he couldn't get close. Calm down. Calm down. I've worked hard enough in the usual training. Come on, remember that feeling, grasp it. You must grasp it, and keep the rhythm of breathing with full concentration. Hitaki Kusuo silently encouraged himself in his heart. The feeling of a bottleneck that was close yet not far away was almost within reach in the face of the huge pressure given by Uchiha Itachi. Slowly. Invisibly. A thin membrane that had been blocking Hitaki Kusuo for a year seemed to have penetrated through it. What he arrived at. It was another world. A new world that he had just entered. Kai. The black shadow flickered, and just when the fireball was about to swallow Hitaki Kusuo, he moved. Hitaki Kusuo's eyes were filled with an unprecedented brilliance. Itachi, thank you very much for the pressure you put on me. In return, I'll let you see this move. Sun breathing form 5, train. Hitaki Kusuo flipped a circle in the air, and swung an arc-shaped vertical slash wrapped in flames at Itachi. This time. He was as fast as lightning. He stabbed Itachi with the force of thunder. Fast. Too fast. Not good. Itachi's eyes froze. His kaleidoscopes could not catch the movements of Kusuo Hitaki. He was careless. Puff. Suo Hitaki's knife pierced Itachi's body again. But as expected, the opponent turned into a crow and disappeared. But the crows did not reunite into a body, but scattered in the air. Itachi's words floated in the sky. Your swordsmanship is good. See you again if we are lucky. The empty voice gradually disappeared as the crow flew away. Failed to hit again. Suo Hitaki panted and stuck the knife into the ground. But there was no regret at the corner of his mouth, because just now, under the strong pressure given by Itachi, he successfully broke through the barrier of full concentration breathing in this world. Now Kusuo Hitaki. I can now maintain the full concentration breathing method all day long. The mastery of the full concentration breathing method means an all-round improvement in my strength, whether it is speed, strength or physique, it is far beyond my previous self. In addition, the self-healing ability has also been greatly improved. Focusing on the wound with breathing can alleviate the injury. Hitaki Kusuo is confident that in the later stage, he can definitely be comparable to Tsunade's Yin Seal, and even not worse than the first-generation Hokage Senju Hashirama. Current role-playing degree, 10%. After unlocking the full concentration method, the role-playing degree of the character is also improved. The fifth form of the Sun Calling combat technique just now was obtained at that time. This time, all-round improvement. Kusuo Hitaki was quite satisfied and went back with a smile on his face. Under the moonlight, Uchiha Itachi suddenly appeared on the intricate electric poles of Konoha. He squatted on the electric pole, covering his abdomen with his hands, where a knife wound was bleeding. Kusuo Hitaki, you are getting more and more surprising. Whoosh. Itachi disappeared again. This night seemed unusually peaceful. The villagers fell asleep peacefully, with only snoring and the babbling of crows flying by. In the Uchiha clan, Sasuke was sleeping soundly. Itachi passed by his room when he came back and took a sneak peek. He kept mumbling, and from time to time he swore to defeat Kusuo Hitaki and regain the title of the chief student. The other clan members were also silent, each sitting and dreaming of the first wealthy family in Konoha. No one knew that under this calm atmosphere, undercurrents were surging. It seemed, this first wealthy family of Konoha can prosper forever. Chapter 16. The Hokage's Office. The third generation wore a red and white divine robe and looked out the window with a frown. How is Itachi? Everything is going according to plan. In the office, Danzo held a cane in his hand and stared at Sarutobi Hiruzen with dissatisfaction. HMPH. If I had told you to do what I said earlier and take the initiative, there wouldn't be so many things. Uchiha is a time bomb in the village. Staying one more day is a disaster. I do this for the village. Danzo's tone was full of disdain and dissatisfaction. Looking at the old back of the third generation, a trace of jealousy flashed in his eyes. Sarutobi Hiruzen is old. He has long lost the spirit of a ninja hero. The position of Hokage should have been mine. The other two elders of the elders group had already gone out to arrange various preparations. Anbu, Hokage's direct guards, and the route controlled by Danzo. These people have already laid a net of heaven and earth. Even if the Uchiha clan has gods descending from heaven and cage-level strongmen, they will be tied to death here. Anbu flew through the village from time to time, and Hitaki Kusuo stared at the figures floating in the sky thoughtfully. These days, he has been practicing swordsmanship silently. The unlocking of the full collection of Chengjong gave him enough self-protection ability. Even if he was targeted by someone with bad intentions, there was no problem in retreating safely. So, Hitaki Kusuo paid special attention to the situation in the village. The relationship between the Konoha high level and the Uchiha clan has become more and more intense, full of gunpowder. I don't know how many days are left. The atmosphere is on the verge of breaking out, and it's getting more and more subtle. Let alone the Anbu who frequently blockades the village, and the members of the Uchiha clan who are under full surveillance, we can conclude that the high-ranking officials of Konoha can't wait to take action against Uchiha. Kusuo-kun. The girl gently blocked Hitaki Kusuo with her hand and shook it. What's wrong? Are you worried about something? Hinata looked at Hitaki Kusuo with concern, and Hitaki Kusuo's face was reflected in her pure white pupils. Nothing. Hitaki Kusuo shook his head. These things are absolutely confidential and will be sealed in the archives forever. Hinata is too innocent now, and it is not suitable for her to be exposed to these. The water in Konoha is too deep. Moreover, Hitaki Kusuo knows that the Uchiha clan is an abyss. As long as you get involved in the cause and effect with it, you will most likely suffer from it. If you don't have the fate of being the protagonist, don't just follow Naruto and pester them. Touching Hinata's cute head, Kusuo Hitaki took her into the bookstore. Today is a holiday at school. Hinata was rarely given a holiday by her father. They happened to go out together and happened to meet each other in a tacit understanding. You don't have eyes. Dare to block me from walking. Do you believe I will chop you with a knife? Don't you know I'm an Uchiha? An arrogant and domineering voice came from the corner of the street. A young man with the Uchiha family emblem fan behind him was pushing and shoving another masked member. The mask on his face is either the Anbu or the Root. Those who can enter these two organizations are ninjas with certain talents, either outstanding in strength or outstanding in talent. The young Uchiha clan member in front of him seemed to not care at all. He still widened his eyes and cursed at the other party. There were dirty movements on his hands. Kusuo-kun, this guy is so annoying. Hinata has been growing up under the protection of the Hyuga family. She is usually surrounded by guards and is rarely bullied. Therefore, seeing someone bullying others so unreasonably, Hinata instinctively feels disgusted. Hitaki Kusuo watched all this coldly. It is easy to infer that the ninja on the mission accidentally bumped into the Uchiha clan member because he was in a hurry, and apologized in time, but the other party still refused to let him go. Hehe, it seems that the plot I saw in my previous life was really right. The Uchiha is indeed a little too arrogant. When I saw this in my previous life, Hitaki Kusuo always had doubts in his heart. If the Uchiha were really law-abiding and good citizens, how could Itachi do it? For the so-called false peace. Now it seems, maybe the Uchiha really has something to blame. Such arrogance, even if they are real Hokages, they dare not be so blatant. Let's go, there's nothing to see, everything will be over soon. He said, he was going to take Hinata away from here and go to another place for a date. Suddenly, another masked figure fell from the sky. The action was agile and fast. When he took off the mask, the Uchiha clan member who was shouting the most just now immediately wilted, and dared not say a word. After repeatedly apologizing to the other party with his clan members, Uchiha Itachi looked at the place where Hitaki Kusuo had left just now, and disappeared in an instant. Hitaki Kusuo pulled Hinata forward, and saw a flash in front of him, and Itachi leaned against the wall, as if waiting for him. Hinata, go to the bookstore to read a book first, I have something to deal with here. Hinata looked at Itachi in front of her in confusion, and her heart was full of surprise. Kunuo is really amazing. Itachi is such a powerful person, but he is waiting for him. They must have something important to do. Hinata nodded and went into the bookstore alone. Tell me what you want to talk to me about. After Hinata went in, Kusuo Hitaki came to Itachi and said straight to the point. Itachi played with the mask in his hand. Did you see the conflict just now? Are you talking about the conflict on the corner? Of course I saw it. Kusuo Hitaki didn't understand what Itachi wanted to say. It hadn't seen Itachi for a while since the last fight. Kusuo, do you think such a family is really a wrong existence? Shallow and ignorant, arrogant, such a family is a cancer growing in the dark for the village, or a short-lived flame in the light. Itachi looked up at the sky. It seemed to be mumbling to himself, as if asking him. Kusuo Hitaki couldn't bear to hear Itachi talk about the meaning of life. He didn't bother to care whether the person in front of him was brainwashed by the so-called will of fire. Besides, is Itachi asking him for advice? What's the matter? Sorry, Kusuo Hitaki doesn't care about these. More importantly, he was worried that he really gave Itachi advice. Then this little butterfly with fluttering wings would completely affect the direction of the whole world. Life is a one-way train. What you have passed and missed will never come back. Besides, the world is full of troubles. Why should a man be fussy? Just a knife in your hand is enough. Kusuo Hitaki held the knife in his hand and said to himself. Just a knife in your hand is enough. Chapter 17. Uchiha Itachi was obviously stunned when he heard what Kusuo Hitaki said. Life is a one-way train. What you have passed and missed will never come back. He repeated what Kusuo Hitaki said, a little dazed. Then, Uchiha Itachi smiled to himself. That's right, Kusuo-kun. Please take good care of Sasuke in the future. These were the last two words Itachi left before he left. For Kusuo Hitaki, from then on, Uchiha Itachi never bothered him again. Life was still normal. He practiced sword alone in the training ground every day. Taking advantage of the fact that all the attention of Danzo and even the third generation of senior officials was on the Uchiha clan, Kusuo Hitaki had plenty of time and wished he could practice sword until the early morning every day. Without worrying about his strength being exposed, he showed off his superb swordsmanship. Sun breathing type 1, sun breathing type 2, sun breathing type 3. Sun breathing type 6 burning bones and flaming sun. Current role-playing degree, %. A month later, Kusuo Hitaki had unlocked almost one-fifth of the template. The later he got, the more Kusuo Hitaki found that what made Yoriichi Sugakuni so powerful was not his breathing method, nor his natural markings or his transparent world. It is his incomparable talent. For sword skills, the innate talent for the sword in his hand. So just practicing swordsmanship can no longer meet the requirements of role-playing improvement for Kusuo Hatake. During this period, he also took the initiative to find Kakashi and began to try to learn the ancestral swordsmanship of the Hatake clan. Hatake swordsmanship. This is the swordsmanship of Hatake White Fang that is the best in Konoha and even famous in the entire ninja world. With it, Hatake White Fang can crush the other 8 colors and surpass the 3 ninjas to become the strongest fighting force in Konoha at that time. Even the shadows of other ninja villages are a little afraid of him. And now, Kusuo Hatake, who has inherited the terrible talent of Yorichi Sugikoku, who is comparable to a monster, has begun to integrate the Hatake swordsmanship into his breathing method. It seems that the system can also help the compatibility of the two. Therefore, the current Kusuo Hatake's understanding of swordsmanship has risen to a new level. The strength is getting stronger and stronger. From then on, there is an extra line in his world. A red line representing death. Cut it off. You can cut off everything. In front of a stone more than 1 meter high, Kusuo Hatake held a knife, narrowed his eyes, and looked carefully. The line of death does not only represent people or living creatures. In his eyes, the mountains, rivers, lakes and seas all have their own red lines. Cut it off. Cut off the mountains, rivers, lakes and seas. But under normal circumstances, the tougher and more difficult to cut an object is, the dimmer its red line will be. Dimmer to Kusuo Hatake could hardly find it. Even if he found it by chance, he couldn't accurately locate it in the battle. At this moment, he looked at the huge stone in front of him, which was as tall as an adult, and raised the knife in his hand. Kusuo Hatake saw it. He saw the red line of the stone. Swish. One sword. Clean and neat. The sound of the blade cutting through the stone flashed by, as if the two had never touched. After Kusuo Hatake drew his sword, he sheathed it and strode away without looking back. Behind him. A few seconds later, a huge stone collapsed with a bang, splitting directly in half from the middle. The cut was neat and flat, smooth without a crease. It was obvious that the sword was sharp. In an unknown underground secret room in Konoha, a huge round table was full of people. All of them were the elders of Konoha. High-level people such as Kaharu Yuditane, Mito Kato En, Danzo, and the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen were all here. Elders, we have made preparations. This time, we have made a perfect plan. Now everything is ready, and we only need the east wind. Danzo glanced at his good friend Sandata, and seeing that he had not spoken, he spoke first. Utane Kaharu and Mitoman En have always been the most conservative and stubborn senior leaders, and nodded in agreement with Danzo's words. It was indeed the right decision for Mr. Tobarama to suppress the Uchiha clan when he did not like it. Now the ambition of the Uchiha clan is obvious. If we can't take the first step, then we will suffer, and the whole Konoha. When the time comes, how can we face the teacher? To see the first generation. Utane Kaharu's voice became excited, and the spearhead was aimed at the third generation. Sarutobi, you always say wait, wait, now we tell you, we can't wait any longer. At this point, we and the Uchiha clan are already enemies who are jealous of each other. Either we or they will be the only ones left. They are a clan born evil. Think about the Nine Tails Rebellion. Think about how the fourth Hokage died. Think about that man. Keeping them is ultimately a disaster. It is a stain on the will of fire. The three elders sang in unison, passionately, and had reached a consensus. Looking at this scene, the third Hokage couldn't help but sigh. It's my fault after all. I failed to reconcile the relationship between the village and the Uchiha. Forget it, things have developed to this point and there is no way to do it. Let's proceed according to the plan. After that, he shouted to the outside of the door. Come in. A desolate voice walked out of the darkness and knelt on one knee on the ground. It was none other than Uchiha Itachi. Itachi, did you remember what I told you? Since you promised to complete the task by yourself, we will trust you once. We chose you to give you a chance. If the village takes action, the problem can be solved just as well, or even more cleanly and neatly, and even the children will not be spared. Danzo's eyes were cold, and he said this to Itachi who was kneeling on one knee. When Itachi heard the last sentence that even the children would not be spared, the pupils in his eyes shrank obviously. After a few breaths, he finally held back. Uchiha Itachi buried his head deeply and replied in a deep voice. Yes. Chapter 18. It was another dark and windy night. Hitaki Kusuo was practicing sword in the training ground, and unknowingly found that the moonlight was already strong. He wiped the sweat from his forehead, sat on the ground and began to rest. There was a lunch box next to him. Hitaki Kusuo had no one at home, and of course he didn't know how to make a lunch box. This lunch box was prepared by Hinata and sent to him. In the past month, he came to practice sword secretly every day, but Hinata accidentally discovered it. Hinata has always kept it in mind. Then Kusuo-kun, you practice so late every day, will you be hungry? Hinata, who just knew about this, asked with a red face. Ha! Hungry. Hitaki Kusuo said indifferently, it is true that I will be hungry due to the large amount of training, but the ramen of the handmade house is open very late every day, and 3 bowls of hot ramen are enough to fill my stomach. How can ramen be okay? Although it tastes good, it is still not nutritious enough. Hinata thought so in her heart. Later, Hinata forced him to eat a lunch box on the pretext that she was taken care of by Kusuo Hitaki every day. It must be said that Hinata's cooking skills are not worse than those of some chefs, and Kusuo Hitaki also praised Hinata's cooking skills. From then on, every day when Kusuo Hitaki finished a day's training, there was an extra loving lunch box. There is no shortage of chicken, duck, fish and meat, the nutritional combination is perfect, and the color, aroma and taste are all good. While eating Hinata's lunch box with satisfaction, Kusuo Hitaki was thinking about things. He is already 6 years old. It has been more than a year since the awakening system. His strength has skyrocketed in this year. Both the means of attack and physical fitness have been qualitatively improved. Moreover, the shadow clone who stayed in school to study every day can beat everyone in the same grade without knowing it. After a challenge that Sasuke was unwilling to give up, the shadow clone kicked him to the ground again. The latter was deeply desperate. Sasuke knew clearly in his heart. It was only a shadow clone of Kusuo Hitaki who defeated him. Suo Hitaki, who came into contact with the shadow clone that day and got a day's memory, also smiled knowingly. For why do you like to kick Sasuke's ass every time you beat him? Maybe you have a bad taste for such arrogant people. Ah! Ah! A lot of crows suddenly flew in the sky. A flock of crows flew by, and there was a crow cry. Hitaki Kusuo, who was extremely sensitive to crows, stood up all of a sudden. Itachi. It seems that tonight is the so-called night of slaughtering the clan. He sighed in his heart. It is estimated that the village has been completely blocked now. There is no need to doubt Danzo's methods. When he does conspiracy, he rarely leaves any tricks. The third generation chose Uchiha Itachi. As a shrewd elder, Danzo naturally would not put the treasure on one person. The root and the anbu must have surrounded the whole village tightly. On the one hand, it is to prevent any fish from slipping through the net. On the other hand, it is also to find Uchiha Itachi's helpers. After all, with the strength of the Uchiha clan, it is rumored that Uchiha Fugaku also opened the Mangekyo Sharingan. It is impossible for Uchiha Itachi to kill a clan alone, and everyone knows it. It's just that old coin Danzo, who didn't expect Obito to be so powerful. Uchiha clan extermination. It happened after all. The wind fanned by this butterfly still failed to affect the direction of the world. Of course, he himself had no intention of affecting it. In a trance, there was a faint smell of blood in the air, and there were faint screams and shouts. I don't know if it's an illusion. Hitaki Kusuo suddenly remembered the little girl who handed Uchiha Itachi the 3-color meatballs. And Hinata. If it's for the village, for the goal, he doesn't hesitate to hurt the people around him, and he doesn't care about the means. Sorry, I can't do it. Hitaki Kusuo's eyes became firm at this moment. Gently stroking the lunch box in his hand. In his previous life, he only liked Hinata's appearance. After coming to this world, he discovered that it turns out that this girl has so many gentle sides. When you experience this gentleness firsthand, you will be deeply attracted to it. For the so-called will of fire, you are willing to hurt the woman you love. Oh, such a thing, if it is like this, what kind of shit is the will of fire? Hitaki Kusuo said disdainfully. It's just that Hinata is still too shy now, and we have to find an opportunity to intensify her training. She can't blush and faint at every turn. Otherwise, many things for adults are difficult to handle. Thinking about many complicated things in his mind, Hitaki Kusuo carried his sword and lunch box and returned to his home silently. When he returned home, he unexpectedly found that the light in the room of his cousin Kakashi next door was also on. Cousin is not asleep. Hitaki Kusuo was very confused about this. It's not clear whether Kakashi knew about Uchiha Itachi's slaughter of the clan. As a Hokage, Kakashi should know more secrets than ordinary people. It's just that Itachi's true identity is classified as top secret by the village. Kakashi should know that something might happen to Uchiha tonight, but he knows nothing about the details. Shaking his head, Kusuo Hitaki walked into his room with a smile. He took a comfortable bath, lay on the bed and looked out the window. The world developed step by step under his observation. His strength was also steadily improving. Until one day, his sword can split mountains and cut seas with one sword. Sever 6 paths with one sword. At that time, he could also raise his sword to Madara and say, "What? Do you want to dance too?" Chapter 19. The Day of the Day. Suo Hitaki walked on the way to the Konoha training ground as usual. There were people coming and going on the street, but this time the atmosphere was a little wrong, and everyone was talking among themselves. Is this true? Have you heard? The Uchiha clan was exterminated last night. Only the clan leader's youngest son is left alive, how pitiful. I heard about it too. It is said that the one who exterminated the clan is also the son of the clan leader of the Uchiha clan, the genius Uchiha Itachi. How miserable. Who would have thought that the most powerful clan in Konoha could be exterminated in one night? Who knows? But then again, why did Uchiha Itachi do this? He slaughtered his own clan members and killed his own parents with his own hands. It's too cruel. Listening to the discussion of pedestrians, Kusuo Hitaki held his sword and remained silent. He knew. From then on, Uchiha Itachi would be labeled as a traitor to Konoha and flee. In the ninja school, classmates in Class 1 found that 2 people were not there. One was the top student of this year, Kusuo Hitaki. The other one, it was Uchiha Sasuke, whose fame and strength were second only to his. Everyone saw it, and knew it more or less in their hearts. A terrible thing happened in Konoha last night. The Uchiha clan, once the most powerful family in Konoha, which had been famous in the ninja world since the Warring States period and possessed the Sharingan, was exterminated. The only survivor. It was their classmate Uchiha Sasuke. Similarly, the news of the extermination of the Uchiha clan quickly fermented. Not only the entire Konoha village, but also other villages learned the news. The spies they planted in Konoha reported this to the police immediately. The news was passed back to his village. Konoha also stepped up its efforts to arrange the defense of the village. Their top leaders knew the inside story. But for other villages, especially the 5 major ninja villages, Konoha without the Uchiha clan almost lost half of its combat power. There may be ambitious people who want to start a war and extort money from Konoha when it is weak. After a while, Sasuke returned to school under the arrangement of the 3rd generation. But the tsunere in his eyes was gone, replaced by a touch of silence. The whole person began to speak less. His goal in his heart also changed from defeating Kusuo Hitaki to killing his brother Uchiha Itachi with his own hands and avenging his parents. Konoha announcement. The traitor Uchiha Itachi has abandoned the village and his people, and has committed the heinous crime of brutally killing his relatives and friends and slaughtering his people. From today on, he is listed as an S-class traitor. Whether it is Konoha or other villages, anyone who can catch Uchiha Itachi can take his head to Konoha village to collect the bounty. Konoha finally issued an announcement. This matter was thus determined. Uchiha Itachi slaughtered his relatives and defected from the village. Listed as an S-class traitor. This move shocked the ninja world. The people who did not know the truth spit on his portrait, and the young men fantasized that they would catch Uchiha Itachi one day and become the hero of the whole village. But what they did not know was, how could they be able to match someone who could slaughter the entire Uchiha clan by himself? How about it? Do you want to see more of this village? Wearing a bamboo hat and hiding his entire face, Uchiha Itachi stood on a high mountain, looking down at the village where he grew up. Behind Uchiha Itachi was Obito, who was also wearing a whirlpool mask. Nothing, let's go. Itachi said lightly without looking back, and turned around and left the place. Hee. No one could observe Obito's face hidden under the mask. He laughed coldly, glanced at Konoha with his cold eyes, and then the whole person slowly twisted in space. Below the mountain. It was Kusuo Hatake who was training hard. As if he had sensed something, he looked up in confusion, but found nothing. Kusuo-kun. Hinata. Are you here? Kusuo Hatake knew who the owner of the voice was without turning around. Hinata's voice was very distinctive. With tenderness and a little bit of timidity, when calling the name of Kusuo Hatake, there was a little bit of surprise. There were many emotions mixed in it, and only he could enjoy it alone. How did you have time to come here today? Don't you have class? Kusuo Hatake put down the sword in his hand and wiped the sweat on his face with a towel. Hinata crossed her hands and covered a lunchbox in front of her body, her face a little hot, and whispered. Today, I saw that Kusuo didn't seem to let the shadow clone come to class. I was worried that you would be hungry after training, so I came to bring you a lunchbox without permission. You won't blame me, right? It turned out that he came to deliver food. Immediately, Kusuo Hatake understood. He gently pinched Hinata's little face with his hand. You are so kind, I can't thank you enough, how can I blame you? Hinata blushed and her breathing became much faster because of his hand. Nan, Kusuo. Don't do this. The latter part of the words was so small that it was almost inaudible. Seeing this, Kusuo Hatake smiled lovingly and rubbed her head, holding her on his shoulders. Hinata's body temperature rose, her face was hot like she had a fever, and she had lost her ability to react. She almost fainted. After her mind went blank, Hinata finally became limp and powerless. Ah. She fainted like this. I was still a little too hasty. He picked up the lunchbox Hinata sent, carried Hinata on his back, and Kusuo Hatake walked towards the Hyuga family step by step. It was unusually quiet along the way. Only the moonlight and the dim street lights illuminated their shadows, which became longer and longer. During the process, Hinata was lying on his back. Maybe she woke up, or maybe she didn't. But the two of them walked along tacitly. P.S. Please give me flowers, comment votes, and monthly votes. Thank you for your support. Chapter 20. Good times are always short, and soon Kusuo Hatake carried Hinata to the door of the Hyuga family. Okay, Hinata, you're home. Kusuo Hatake said gently to the person behind him. Yeah. Hinata hummed softly and got off from Kusuo Hatake's back. Kusuo Hatake saw a look of reluctance on her face in his peripheral vision. Looking at the magnificent gate of the Hyuga clan, the high lintel showed their status as a wealthy family in Konoha. Remember when we first met? Kusuo Hatake said softly, bringing time back to the original memory. That was 2 years ago. Kusuo Hatake, who traveled to this world, not only practiced as much as possible every day, but also wandered around the village. The purpose was nothing else but to find an opportunity to save Hinata and get the moon first. Unexpectedly, he didn't find it in the end, this opportunity. It was the first time that the two children met in the gate of the Hyuga clan. It was a snowy night. Hinata, who was locked outside the door by her father for practicing, stood helplessly and was discovered by Hatake Kusuo, who happened to pass by. It was New Year. The whole village was reunited happily. Only little Hinata stood innocently and helplessly in the snow. When Hatake Kusuo saw her, he took her hand and started running without saying a word. Later, Hinata hid in Hatake Kusuo's house to spend the New Year's Eve. The two hid in the quilt and listened to the voices of the Hyuga clan members in the village searching for the eldest lady. The thrill and excitement were also deeply buried in Hinata's heart. Listening to Hitaki Kusuo talking about her childhood, Hinata smiled knowingly. That was the first time she enjoyed the joy of freedom. Being locked up in a tall house and under the pressure of countless people's high expectations is a completely different feeling. Just once. Hinata liked this feeling. Looking at the smile on Hinata's face, Kusuo Hitaki's heart moved. He suddenly put his arms around the girl in front of him and welcomed her into his arms. The shy girl didn't expect Kusuo Hitaki to be so bold, and opened her mouth in panic. Looking at Hinata's delicate lips, Kusuo Hitaki finally didn't bear to do it. Instead, he pecked her face gently. Holding her face and whispering, "Go in, it's late." Yeah. Hinata twisted her body shyly and walked into the Hyuga gate with her head turned back every 3 steps. After the night of the Uchiha's genocide, nothing major happened in Konoha village. Everything passed quietly. It's another year's annual exam. But this time, the classmates in the class have been studying for more than a year, and each of them has made great progress. As for the strength of the classmates in the class, they all had a clear comparison in their minds. Sasuke. Don't run away later. I will definitely beat you hard. As soon as Naruto entered the classroom, he immediately shouted at Sasuke. Tisk. After this period of precipitation, Sasuke looked much more aloof. Facing Naruto's challenge, he didn't even bother to look at it. Haha. Coward. Naruto was not discouraged by this, but became more angry. Sakura couldn't stand it anymore. She put her hands on her waist and shouted at Naruto. HMPH. Naruto, what's the point of always looking for Sasuke? If you have the ability, go and challenge Kusuo-kun. I think you are the coward. The young man was full of blood and couldn't be provoked by the girl he secretly loved. Naruto immediately stood up like a chicken blood. Who said I don't dare? I'll challenge Kusuo to a duel. Coincidentally, Kusuo Hitaki walked into the classroom. Naruto's eyes rolled, and he immediately ran up and swung his fist to hit Kusuo Hitaki. Sasuke saw that Naruto really dared to challenge Kusuo Hitaki. On the surface, he didn't care, but his eyes were closely watching. Bang! Just when Naruto's fist was about to hit Kusuo Hitaki's face, the latter dodged slightly to the side. Naruto fell down. On his face. Ah! It hurts. Watching Naruto fall to the ground and cover his face in pain, Kusuo Hitaki looked confused. What's going on? Naruto attacked him right away. It's just that their speed was like a turtle in his eyes, so he dodged it easily. Damn it! Naruto's unyielding character began to show. After suffering such a big loss in front of the goddess, he immediately wanted to get back at her. Holding his body with his hands, Naruto lay on the ground ready to go. With a bang. A head bang hit him on the head. Looking up. It turned out to be this guy, Kusuo Hitaki. Sizzle. Naruto bared his teeth at Kusuo Hitaki, made a fierce expression, and pounced on him again. But when he turned around, Kusuo Hitaki lifted him up by the neck and threw him aside. After doing all this, Kusuo Hitaki walked back to his seat as if nothing had happened. It seemed that he had just teased Naruto just by chance. There were also girls passing by in the class who almost had stars in their eyes when they saw this scene, and exclaimed that he was so handsome. Hinata shyly looked at Kusuo Hitaki's profile, still so gentle, still so handsome. Sasuke felt very bitter. Shadow clone. It's just a shadow clone. The shadow clone is so powerful, how powerful is he? I want revenge, but I can't even defeat my classmates, how can I defeat that man? Hitaki Kusuo seemed to see the little expression on Sasuke's face. Hey, if you take me as your target, you still have a long way to go to catch up with me. Chapter 21. Not long after, Iruka walked into the classroom, looked around and said in a deep voice. Classmates, it's another year of training, and I believe everyone has made a lot of progress. We will have a new round of annual exams later, and the results of this annual exam will also be used as the standard for the final evaluation. After saying this, Uruka led the classmates to the outside of the venue one after another. Hitaki Kusuo's shadow clone looked normal. This annual exam seemed to him like a child's play, meaningless. Except Hinata, the classmates at this time, they all tacitly moved away from him. Although the possibility is very small, the annual exam single-player actual combat can be designated for challenge. No one wants any accidents to happen. What if Kusuo thinks that the way he looks at him is wrong and challenges him? Finally, no one took the initiative to challenge Kusuo Hitaki in the annual exam. Later, a lucky classmate was randomly selected by drawing lots, and it all ended in a one-sided beating. I declare that the first place this year is Kusuo Hitaki. Uruka raised the arm of Kusuo Hitaki's shadow clone and announced loudly. The students in the audience looked calm because they were used to it. Can it be called surprise if there is no unexpected thing? Only Hinata's pure white eyes were full of surprise and blessings. On the way home from school, Hinata trotted to catch up with Kusuo Hitaki's shadow clone, and asked eagerly before he could remove it. Kusuo-kun, can I practice with you in the future? She looked at Kusuo Hitaki eagerly, hoping to get a positive answer. Kusuo Hitaki hesitated for a while, looked at Hinata's pleading eyes, and agreed with a smile. Bang! A burst of white smoke rose, and his shadow clone was removed. Hinata stood there, her face full of joy and happiness. Great! Just learned the shadow clone technique, and can practice with Kusuo-kun. She held her palms and thought beautifully. The time passed quickly, and the strength of the 12 little strong men improved rapidly. Among them, Sasuke and Hinata were the best. Sasuke had hatred in his heart, and he dared not relax for a moment. So Hinata's progress was even more surprising. In the tests year after year, Hinata, who always achieved good results, has become accustomed to everyone's praise. Facing everyone's sincere admiration, she would smile knowingly. In order to catch up with Kusuo-kun, I can't fall behind. This is Hinata's only wish. Of course, when everyone was balancing their own strengths, they automatically excluded Kusuo Hitaki. Because they found that in the year before graduation, Kusuo-kun could actually compete head-on with the Chunin teacher without losing the upper hand. This scene brought a severe shock to them. Everyone was so shocked that they couldn't close their mouths. Only Sasuke clenched his fists, and his nails dug into the flesh. Damn! This guy is just a shadow clone, but he is so strong. When can I catch up with him? And Hinata, whose eyes were full of Kusuo Hitaki, laughed in her heart. Kusuo-kun is getting more and more powerful. He hasn't even drawn his sword yet, but he can already defeat Uruka-sensei. They all thought they knew all of Kusuo Hitaki's strength and worked hard towards this goal. Only Kusuo Hitaki and Hinata were training harmoniously in the training ground. When he was tired, Hinata would come forward to wipe his sweat, and when he was thirsty, Hinata would hand him ice water. They turned the hard sword training life into a show of affection. Kusuo-kun, time flies so fast. We are about to graduate in a blink of an eye. The training was over. Hinata, who was sitting on the ground to rest, leaned on Kusuo Hitaki, her tone full of melancholy. There were not many waves in Kusuo Hitaki's heart. Unlike Hinata, the shadow clones he arranged to go to school every day were just to deal with the village, and there was not much affection between classmates. At best, it was a classmate relationship. In his heart, it was enough to have Hinata accompany him alone. The time of separation after graduation always makes people sigh. This is human nature. Kusuo Hitaki smiled and enlightened Hinata. Yeah. Hinata hid in his arms and responded in a low voice. After a while, Hinata felt that Kusuo was playing tricks on her again. Hitaki Kusuo put his arms around her slender waist, and his arms felt the heavy weight on Hinata's waist. After 4 or 5 years of training, Hinata is now much braver and her tolerance is no longer as fragile as before. She will not faint easily. The most important thing is that Hitaki Kusuo has grasped the point when Hinata is about to faint. He can always make her go back and forth between dizziness and sobriety, and finally let him manipulate her. Hinata can only spend such a confused time in passivity and reluctance. After a long time, Hinata opened her blurry eyes. What's wrong? Nothing. Hitaki Kusuo came back to his senses. He was thinking about something just now and accidentally lost his mind. Seeing Hinata like this, he grinned. What's wrong? Do you want to come again? No. Seeing Kusuo looking at her with a smirk, Hinata was frightened and ran away from his arms like a little rabbit. Hitaki Kusuo smiled faintly, looking at Hinata and the scenery around him, muttering in his mouth. It's started, the windmill of the plot is turning. Chapter 22. The early morning sun was rare and warm. It's not as hot as before. Now. The whole Konoha fell into chaos. The child of destiny, Naruto, who was slandered as a fox demon by the villagers, was jumping up and down, painting the Hokage rock in all colors. Good boy. I'll break your legs if I catch you. There were Anbu everywhere to catch Naruto, but due to the orders of the third generation, they couldn't hurt or fight him. But this little sly guy was still very flexible, which gave people a headache. Hee. Kusuo Hitaki looked at this scene and smiled knowingly. Current role, %. He is about to graduate. After several years of training, he has unlocked more than one-third of the template. The full concentration of breathing allows him to maintain the strongest physical state at all times, comparable to a Jonin. The sun breathing technique has also successfully unlocked the last two forms. Although the strength of each form of the sun breathing technique itself is not different, the effects are very different. The latter forms have a qualitative leap in both range and power. Especially with the blessing of the system. It will soon be the time for Naruto to be bewitched and steal the Book of Seals, which means the beginning of the class division. It means that the years of his safe growth under the protection of the school are over. Without the cover of the school, it is inevitable to expose his strength when performing tasks. Whether it is for safety or for better training resources, it is impossible to imagine practicing swordsmanship with a beauty as carefree as before. He is very curious. How much change will the addition of this butterfly bring to the class division? Just as Hitaki Kusuo expected, the third generation is now extremely troubled by this problem. Hitaki Kusuo is not an ordinary person. First of all, he is a descendant of the Hitaki family. According to the camp, he can be said to be a staunch Hokage. Although he has never expressed his position. But with Kakashi's backing, his character must not be too bad. Let's talk about strength. A few months ago, when he accidentally learned that Iruka actually lost to Hitaki Kusuo, he was so shocked that he almost dropped his pipe. It was only because the Anbu next to him held it in time that it was saved. At the age of 12, you can already defeat a Chunin. Even if Iruka is not a peak Chunin, he is also an elite among Chunins. It's just that he doesn't like disputes and fighting, and he teaches because he loves students. This talent is probably no less than Kakashi, right? He is worthy of being a descendant of the Hitaki family. The third generation couldn't help but nod. White Fang's suicide and Kakashi's fall once made the Hokage lineage unable to recover. How could the sudden appearance of such a genius not surprise the old and dim-sighted third Hokage? While thinking, he had already made plans for the class arrangement of this class of students. Time flew by and it was the day of separation. Many students came to the school playground with trepidation and expectation. On the playground, all the Jonin teachers stood. Kakashi, who was recognized as the strongest, was reading a book with fascination, and didn't care about the students. Of course, Hitaki Kusuo still paid more attention to the person who looked very middle school and exaggerated. Might Guy. No one knows how strong Might Guy is. Hitaki Kusuo knows that if the 8 gates are fully opened, no one in the whole village can be his opponent. After all. With the 8 gates fully opened, Kai almost kicked out a big ending with one kick, and 6 paths Madara kicked him half to death. How powerful. In terms of physical skills, Might Guy is the strongest. Led by Iruka and the Chunin teachers, everyone came to the Jonin teachers. It was rare that Kusuo Hitaki didn't use his shadow clone. He took Hinata's hand and walked openly in front of everyone. When Kurenai saw this scene, her charming red eyes widened. Oh tilde, the little guy nowadays is getting bolder and bolder. Asuma held a cigarette in his mouth and laughed beside Kurenai. But I like it. Asuma looked at the young couple who dared to show their love openly at such a young age, and he was more and more satisfied. He remembered the days when he pursued Kurenai. It's great to be young. Now let's announce the class quota. Team 3, Akamichi Choji, Yamanaka Ino, Nara Shikamaru. Instructor, Yuhi Kurenai. Team 7, Uchiha Sasuke, Haruno Sakura, Inazuka Kiba. Instructor, Kakashi. What happened? Team 7 was actually disbanded. Aren't the two children of destiny connected by fate? What did the third generation think, actually separating these two good friends? This change was something Hitaki Kusuo never expected. Team 10, Uzumaki Naruto, Hyuga Hinata, Hitaki Kusuo. Instructor, Sarutobi Asuma. It's a mess. It's completely a mess. I didn't expect that my existence would change so much. Not only did the original Team 7 disband, but the two children of destiny went their separate ways. Even Team 10 was reshuffled because of my joining. However, after a little thought, Kusuo Hitaki suddenly understood the intention of the old man of the third generation. First of all, no matter Sasuke, Naruto's importance is unquestionable. If he doesn't use Kakashi, who is the strongest in the open, to guide him, it is reasonable to use his own son Asuma to supervise him. And, to a large extent, it is because his strength is too outstanding. Asuma, the son of the Hokage, can also win his heart to serve as the guiding Jonin. In this way, in order to make up for the vacant Sasuke, Kakashi can only guide him. Pressing his eyebrows, Kusuo Hitaki quickly accepted the fact of the class division. That's great, Kusuo. We are in the same class. Hinata whispered beside her, very excited and happy. No thinking that God actually favored them so much and successfully assigned them to the same class. Looking at Hinata, who had previously resisted him holding her hand and appearing in front of everyone, now blushed with joy. Hitaki Kusuo suddenly felt that there was nothing wrong with this class assignment. The temporary separation of the child of destiny will definitely not affect the will of this world. The bond between them cannot be cut off by the flapping wings of a butterfly like himself or the will of the third generation old man. Of course. Hitaki Kusuo, who has the system, is very confident in his future strength. Chapter 23 Inches Okay. You three little guys, follow me now. Asuma pinched out the cigarette in his mouth and waved to Hitaki Kusuo and others with a smile. Hinata followed him. Naruto also ran to catch up. It's just that this child of destiny is still immersed in the loss of not being assigned to the same class with the goddess in his heart. No words along the way. After they got out of the lawn, Asuma asked them to sit down. Kusuo Hitaki calmly sat in front of Asuma, and Hinata sat next to him. Although they were not assigned to the same class, Naruto's optimistic personality made him active again. Teacher Asuma, what are we going to do? Although Uzumaki Naruto's personality was a bit eccentric, he knew that Asuma was the son of the third Hokage and had a high status in the village, so he was still quite excited. Let me introduce myself formally first. My name is Asuma Sarutobi. My hobby. I like cigarettes. I feel uncomfortable if I don't smoke for a day. He was very easy to talk to with a beard, but he didn't have any airs. This point quickly became similar to Naruto's interests. Huh, really? What does a cigarette smell like? Can I smoke one too? Looking at Naruto jumping up and down, Kusuo Hitaki's eyes twitched. Being assigned to this funny guy. It will be a headache in the future. Okay, now it's your turn to introduce yourself. Tell us about your hobbies, dreams, etc. Asuma rubbed his hands and looked at the three children in front of him with a smile on his face. He was very satisfied with the division of classes this time. As the son of the third generation, he naturally knew Naruto's true identity, which was the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki of Konoha. He will definitely be a strong foundation for the village in the future. And there is no need to say more about Kusuo Hitaki. He has been the top student for 5 consecutive years. This kind of strength is rare in the history of Konoha. He even defeated Iruka, who was a Chunin teacher not long ago. You can get a glimpse of it. The talent and strength of Kusuo Hitaki. A powerful future Jinchuriki, a genius with excellent talent and potential, and a princess of a wealthy family in Konoha. The honor of guiding these three people belongs to me, which really makes people feel good. I'll go first, I'll go first. Naruto raised his hand and said excitedly. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. I have many hobbies. I like instant noodles, and I like Ichiraku ramen, which Iruka teacher treated me to. What I hate is waiting for the instant noodles to be ready for 3 minutes. My interest is to taste and compare various instant noodles. Then, my future dream is to surpass the Hokage. I want the whole village to recognize my existence. As Asuma couldn't help nodding as Naruto spoke his inner thoughts seriously. A person who can say this will definitely not have a bad heart. He will definitely be a firm supporter and successor of the Will of Fire in the future. It was Hinata's turn. She glanced at Kusuo Hitaki next to her and was a little shy. My name is Hinata Hyuga. I like housework. My hobby is to make bento for the person I like. My dream is to be a housewife and to be courageous for the person I love. Hinata's words surprised Asuma. The thoughts of the princess of the Hyuga family. It's a bit dangerous. Hitaki Kusuo looked at her lovingly. He knew that Hinata's confession was a disguised confession. According to Hinata's shy personality, it was not easy for her to say these words directly. Of course, he secretly tickled Hinata's soft palm with his hand to show his affection. He didn't stop until she shyly lowered her head to dodge. Finally, Hitaki Kusuo held Hinata's soft little hand tightly with his hand. It was cold to the touch and soft without bones. Seeing that everyone was staring at him, Hitaki Kusuo was not at all shy. He looked at them calmly with a clear voice. As for me, Hitaki Kusuo, my hobby is sword practice, and my dream is to become the most powerful supreme swordsman in the world. The introduction was brief and domineering. This scene shocked Asuma and Naruto. To become the most powerful supreme swordsman in the world. Naruto was shocked but not surprised at all. He looked as if it was his due. Since he was defeated by Kusuo Hitaki's shadow clone last time, he never took the initiative to provoke him again. One reason was that he knew that there was a huge gap in strength between them and he could not win. Otherwise, he would be beaten in front of the goddess and humiliated himself. The other reason was that the world was running, so most of his attention was on Sasuke. Compared to Naruto, Asuma's heart was in turmoil. He was a middle-aged man who was about to have a wife and a child. He was very good at judging people. When Kusuo Hitaki spoke, his eyes were calm and firm, as if this was not a dream, but a goal he would achieve sooner or later. Mature beyond his peers. Add to that his current strength that is the best of his generation. Such performance, it's not hard not to think of another genius who destroyed his Uchiha clan. Uchiha Itachi. But this time, he is from the Hitaki clan, and is considered a proper Hokage. This time, he was assigned to Asuma's side, which was also the decision made by his father Sarutobi Hiruzen. Strengthen Hitaki Kusuo's support for the Will of Fire. There is such a demon with amazing potential. Asuma naturally smiled. On the side, Hinata's eyes were more admiring. The more confident Hitaki Kusuo was, the brighter the light in her eyes. Looking at the faces of several children, the purpose of introducing themselves and getting familiar with each other has been achieved. Very good, since everyone has introduced themselves, even if we know each other, you should take care of each other and help each other when performing tasks in the future. Now, everyone go back and prepare, we will gather here at this time tomorrow and disband. Hitaki Kusuo's heart moved when he heard this. Gather here at the old place tomorrow. Could it be? P.S. Here, the author continues to beg for support from everyone. Send your flowers, monthly tickets, and evaluation tickets, in addition to the monthly tickets, which will be refreshed every day. Your encouragement is the author's motivation to update. Chapter 24. On the way home. Hinata couldn't help but ask Kusuo Hitaki curiously. Kusuo-kun, what does the teacher want us to do when we gather tomorrow? What? Of course it's to grab the bell. But Kusuo Hatake didn't intend to say it in advance, otherwise it would seem a bit abrupt. I don't know, maybe it's about strengthening our teamwork. With a smile, Kusuo Hatake took Hinata's hand and sent her back home. After sending Hinata away, Kusuo Hatake returned home to meditate. Currently, in the entire template of Yuichiro Sugikoku, only the transparent world has not been unlocked. This is the strongest, most critical, and most difficult skill. After Tanjiro awakened the transparent world, he was able to chop off the head of upper rank 3 Akaza with one sword. In terms of strength, it can be said that he has made great progress. For the world he is in now, the transparent world not only means that he can see the opponent's movements one step ahead, but also effectively avoid the illusions of the Uchiha clan. Except Shisui's Koto Amatsukami. Other Uchiha clan members must rely on the other party to look directly into their eyes to perform illusions. After having the transparent world, Hatake Kusuo only needs to stare at the other party's entire body, so there is naturally no such thing as being in an illusion. Early in the morning of the next day, Hatake Kusuo got up early. This gathering is most likely to grab the bell, and he has already made a plan in his mind. What he didn't expect was that Hinata was waiting at the door of his house. Hinata, why are you here? Hatake Kusuo was still quite surprised to see Hinata at the door of his house. Hinata held a lunch box in her hand and said shyly, I'm worried that Asuma-sensei will make us undergo high-intensity training today, and Kusuo-kun will not be able to have a good meal, so I prepared a lunch box for you in advance. That's what she said, but she didn't explain why you came to my door. Hinata obviously knew that her words were not convincing. A girl actually took the initiative to run to the boy's house. The protagonist is also the current #1 princess of Konoha. If she told it out, it would definitely cause an uproar. However, she would not admit that she missed Kusuo Hatake so much that she couldn't help but come to him as soon as she woke up. Kusuo Hatake, who saw through the girl's mind, didn't point it out. He smiled warmly and took her hand. He hugged Hinata in his arms without breaking up, and whispered softly in her ear. Thank you, Hinata. All of a sudden, the girl's face turned red to the roots of her ears, and she buried herself deeply in the boy's arms. A beautiful scene. Happily staged under the rising sun. It seems that everyone has come quite early. When Asuma arrived, he found that the 3 of them were already there. Teacher Asuma, what is the purpose of our gathering today? Are we going to carry out a big mission? Naruto looked at Asuma, rubbing his hands, ready to do something big. Haha, it's a bit too early for you to go on a mission now. Now is still the stage for us to get used to each other. Although you spent every day together in the ninja school before, you have never fought side by side. You need to practice your tacit understanding and cooperation with each other. At this point, Asuma paused. So, our mission today is this. As he said, he took out a small bell from his pocket. It is true. Hatake Kusuo, who was watching all this calmly, was well prepared and had no fluctuations in his heart. Naruto scratched his head. Bell. What is the teacher going to do? Let each of us hang a bell around our neck as an ornament. Puchi. Hinata couldn't help laughing when she heard this, and Asuma couldn't help laughing. Haha, Naruto, you are really imaginative. This bell is not for you to play with as an ornament, and there is only one. Your task today is to grab the bell from my hand. Looking at the small bell in Asuma's hand, Naruto widened his eyes. Teacher, Flag Kusuo looked at Asuma, you mean to improve our cooperation, let's cooperate. As expected of the chief student, he understood everything at once. Asuma looked at him with appreciation and nodded. Now I give you 30 minutes to discuss tactics. If you can successfully grab the bell from me, I promise to treat you to barbecue tonight. Yeah. When Naruto heard about barbecue, his eyes lit up. Soon, Asuma left for a short time, and only the 3 of them were left at the scene. Whatever you do, do it. Naruto rubbed his hands and looked at Kusuo Hatake and Hinata enthusiastically. Hinata naturally looked at Kusuo Hatake. Now Hinata's everything depends on him. I have two plans here. Kusuo Hitaki looked at them and held up two fingers. I am 100% sure that I can get the bell for each plan. As for which one, you can choose it yourself. 2. Naruto looked confused. As expected of Kusuo-kun, you are really amazing. Then tell me which two plans you have. Although he was optimistic at ordinary times, he still recognized the strength of Hitaki Kusuo. Hinata also looked at Hitaki Kusuo with curiosity. First of all, you two will cooperate with me to distract Asuma-sensei, and then I will go up and grab it with the sword alone. After a moment of silence, Hitaki Kusuo said. Naruto was dumbfounded. That's it. Isn't this equivalent to saying that you two are just salted fish, waiting for me to carry it directly? Naruto was naturally unwilling to do it. Another. What about the other method? Hitaki Kusuo looked at the impatient Naruto and smiled mysteriously. The whole person stood up and looked down at him. The other way is that you two lie down, and I will fight Asuma-sensei alone. Chapter 25. Naruto looked up at Kusuo Hitaki in a daze, and was already stunned. Kusuo-kun, you want to fight Asuma-sensei alone. He pointed at Kusuo Hitaki with a trembling finger and asked, his face full of disbelief. Sarutobi Asuma. That's not an ordinary person. As the son of the third-generation Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, his strength is much stronger than that of an ordinary Jonin. Even Naruto, who is extremely arrogant and confident, understands that according to the normal training rhythm, it will be difficult to defeat the teacher one-on-one in a few years. That's right. Without too much explanation, Kusuo Hitaki left after saying this. Naruto and Hinata were left in a daze. After a long time, Naruto finally reacted and shouted at his back. No way. Are you really going to go alone? Asuma squatted beside the wooden stake and smoked a cigarette comfortably. For him, it was not the first time to lead a newly graduated genin. And the tradition of snatching bells has been passed down since his father taught the 3 generations of Sannin. He was familiar with it. Hearing the footsteps getting closer, he put down the cigarette in his mouth. Have you finally finished the discussion? Have you figured out how to snatch it from me? Hitaki Kusuo, why are you alone? Hitaki Kusuo slowly raised his head, his extremely handsome face staring at him, grinning and revealing brilliant white teeth. Yes, I am alone. The words fell. Dang. The sound of the sword being unsheathed rang out, and Hitaki Kusuo rushed up with a brisk step. Good guy. Asuma never thought that this guy was so bold and really dared to rush up alone. Looking at the faint smile on his face, Asuma's heart skipped a beat. Clang. The special kunai collided with Kusuo Hitaki's sword instantly. Dazzling sparks were sparked. The dazzling sparks flew from the sword and stirred between the two. What power! Asuma suddenly found that the little boy in front of him had amazing power when he drew his sword. He could actually suppress his kunai with the sword. You know, the longer the fulcrum, the higher the power required. The power of Asuma holding a short kunai to resist the huge force coming must be much less than the power of holding the handle to suppress the opponent. In other words, in this first round of confrontation, Kusuo Hitaki's power won. Teacher, don't be distracted, there is another move. Kusuo Hitaki certainly didn't expect to be able to solve a powerful jonin with one sword. He drew out the sword with his backhand. Then he naturally raised it upwards. The target was aimed at Asuma's face, and it was about to be cut. Not bad, very good reaction ability. Asuma certainly saw Kusuo's movements and couldn't help but praise him. Wind style. Wind blade. After taking a step back and jumping away, Asuma didn't get cocky. Since he was at a disadvantage in strength and his speed was not stronger than the other party, it would be wrong for him to treat Kusuo Hitaki as an ordinary child. He immediately released his signature skill. Wind blade. The light blue chakra lingered around his special kunai upper string, making a buzzing sound. The strong cutting characteristics of wind style indicated that anyone who was touched by it would be split in two. Asuma, who used his signature skill, had a smile on his face, and the next second, a strong palpitation came. Boom. Slash. Amazing slash! A huge fire dragon roared over. With a layer of arc-shaped sword energy, it cut across with the sword pressure that could cut through anything. When the sword energy came across, Asuma's hair stood up. This dangerous feeling. If he didn't dodge, he would be seriously injured if not dead. Asuma dodged in time, and then he saw that Kusuo Hatake was calmly holding a knife and looking at him. The horror in Asuma's heart could no longer be described in words. I had already overestimated my genius disciple. But today I found that I had underestimated him by far after fighting. Fire escape. Dust hiding technique. A puff of thick smoke came out of Asuma's mouth, suddenly huge, and rushed towards Kusuo Hatake with burning heat. Sun breathing 2, blue sky. Suo Hatake calmly looked at the huge smoke rushing towards him and whispered. The hand slashed from top to bottom. Instead of facing it head-on. Puff. A loud crashing sound was heard. The other two people watching on the side were shocked. Will Kusuo be in danger? Hinata covered her chest and said worriedly. Naruto even turned over and ran towards the battlefield. On the other side. After Kusuo Hatake offset Asuma's dust hidden, he suddenly sensed that something was wrong with the surrounding environment. At this time. Swish. A light blue blade of light cut towards him from behind, and chakra fluctuated wildly on it. Hatake Kusuo, who had already keenly sensed this, could dodge at any time, but he understood that he could dodge for a while, but if he wanted to dodge the bell, he had to find another way. Otherwise, if he attacked, he would definitely be the first to run out of energy. Strips. Open. With a thought in his mind, the black stripes on his forehead suddenly turned red and became hot, and then moved all over the right face of Kusuo Hatake. With his physical fitness greatly increased, Kusuo Hatake smiled and stood there to let Asuma attack. Bang! Kusuo Hatake's body turned into a wooden stake under Asuma's attack and disappeared. Substitution technique. Sun breathing, 7th form. Yonghwa 2. Asuma's ground cracked, and a knife blade with a ring of flames from top to bottom pierced his neck directly. This is. Frightened, Asuma tried his best to dodge. He bent down, his eyes wrinkled slightly, and his whole body was ready for the next round of attack and defense. Never dare to underestimate this disciple again. Kusuo Hatake has proved his strength and talent with his strength. This is a genius who is no less than Uchiha Itachi. I picked up a treasure. While being shocked, he sighed. Just when Asuma was still guarding against Kusuo Hatake's actions, the latter retracted his sword. Draw the sword into the sheath. Kusuo Hatake looked at him with a smile, holding the bell in his hand. Teacher, I have already grabbed the bell. When? Asuma was shocked to see the bell in his hand, and hurriedly searched his body, and found that it was gone. Thinking back, he immediately realized. It turned out that he took advantage of the substitution technique and pretended to attack from below, but he had already calculated that it was the bell on his waist. This calculation. How meticulous must the mind be? Asuma was numb. The shock that Kusuo Hatake brought him made him not know what to say. Here. Hinata and Naruto just arrived. At a glance, they found the scene in a mess. Gurgle. The sound of swallowing hard was heard. Naruto pointed at the messy ground with a trembling hand again and asked. Kusuo-kun, are these the noises from your fight with the teacher? The explosion just now. Hatake Kusuo walked to Hinata's side, gently stroked her hair, and showed the bell in his hand. Of course, I have the bell, just waiting for Asuma to treat us to barbecue. Naruto still looked at Asuma in disbelief, but found that the latter nodded helplessly. This means that a newly graduated genin successfully defeated or at least tied a jonin. Naruto said. His worldview collapsed.